The waitress who became a mafia heiress. The night that changed everything. She poured coffee for a killer and didn't know it. She wore a ring that belonged to a dead man's promise. And when three men in black coats walked into that diner at 2:47 a.m., the girl behind the counter had exactly $43 in her apron and a dying mother in a hospital that was about to throw them out. One question. That's all it took. One question about a ring, and 24 years of lies came apart like wet paper. By sunrise, Lila Carter would learn her real name. By the end of the week, she'd learn what it cost. Stay with me until the very end of this story, because what happens to Lila in the final part will leave you speechless. Hit that like button if you love stories about ordinary people pulled into extraordinary worlds, and drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from. I read every single one, and I love seeing how far these stories travel. The fluorescent light above booth 4 had been dying for 3 weeks. Lila Carter noticed it every time she walked past, the way it stuttered and hummed like something with a bad heart. She'd told Marv about it twice. He'd grunted both times and gone back to scraping the grill, and that was as close to a promise of repair as anyone got out of Marv Delano. The man ran the Blue Star Diner on Route 9 the way a warden runs a prison yard, through exhaustion, bad coffee, and the quiet understanding that nobody there had anywhere better to be. It was 2:14 in the morning on a Tuesday in October, and the Blue Star was empty except for a trucker sleeping in the back booth and a drunk woman at the counter who kept asking Lila what time it was. "Almost 2:15, Lila said for the 4th time. 2:15 in the morning? Yes, ma'am. Jesus. The woman dragged the word out like it had 3 syllables. I told him I'd be home by midnight. I'm sure he'll understand. You don't know him. Lila didn't answer. She'd learned in 3 years of waiting tables at the Blue Star that the wrong kind of sympathy could turn a drunk person mean faster than a bad tip. She topped off the woman's coffee instead, then took the pot back to the burner and stood there for a second with her hand pressed flat against the chrome counter, because her legs were doing that thing again, that soft, buckling hum that started in her knees when she hadn't eaten since breakfast. She had eaten since breakfast. She'd had half a grilled cheese at 5. She just hadn't slept more than 4 hours in any given night for about 11 weeks now, and the body kept score on that stuff whether you asked it to or not. Her phone buzzed in her apron. She pulled it out. Overlake Regional Medical Center. Billing. She put the phone back. Marv came out of the kitchen wiping his hands on a rag that was more grease than cloth. He was 58, built like a refrigerator, and had the kind of face that made you believe he'd been born angry. Girl. Yeah. Your break was 20 minutes ago. I know. I'm going. 10 minutes, not 15. 10. She untied her apron and walked past him toward the narrow hall behind the kitchen that led to the employee bathroom, and beyond that, a single plastic chair wedged between the ice machine and a stack of ketchup boxes. That chair was her break room. She sat down in it and let her head tip back against the wall and closed her eyes. The phone buzzed again. Same number. She answered this time because not answering was worse. Miss Carter? Speaking. This is Donna from billing at Overlake. I'm sorry to be calling at this hour, but I saw you requested a call back. I did. Yeah, I did. I'm looking at your mother's account, Catherine Carter. Right. The payment from last month cleared, which is good, but I'm showing that this month's installment is about 9 days past due, and the new treatment protocol Dr. Hassan ordered. Have you had a chance to look at the estimate we sent? Lila opened her eyes. The ceiling above her had a brown stain shaped vaguely like Florida. She'd been looking at that stain for 3 years. I looked at it. Okay, so you know it's 41,000. 41,600? Yes, for the first course. That's assuming she responds, which Dr. Hassan feels strongly she will. Right. I have to be honest with you, Ms. Carter. We can work with you on a payment plan for the outstanding balance, but the new protocol requires upfront authorization from the financial office. That means either insurance approval, which we haven't gotten yet, or me paying it, or you paying a significant portion. Yes. How much of a portion? 15,000 to start. Lila laughed. It came out of her before she could stop it, small and ugly and not really a laugh at all. Okay. I know that's a lot. It's fine. Ms. Carter, it's fine, Donna. I'll figure it out. Can I? I'm at work. Can I call you tomorrow? Of course. Just please don't wait too long. Dr. Hassan wants to start by the 15th. The 15th. Yes. Okay. Take care of yourself, honey. That was the part that almost broke her. Honey. She hated when strangers said it to her, because they only said it when they were about to tell her something she couldn't afford. She hung up and sat there with the phone in her lap for maybe 90 seconds, not crying because she'd trained herself out of that a long time ago, just staring at the Florida stain on the ceiling and doing the math she'd done every night for 11 weeks. Rent, $1,100, due in 9 days. Car, $280, 2 weeks past. Utilities, $190. Mom's medications, the ones insurance didn't cover, $340. Hospital balance existing, $6,800 and climbing. New treatment, $15,000 to start, $41,600 total. Waitress job. After taxes and tips on a good week, around $520. She closed her eyes again. When she opened them, Marv was standing in the hallway. Time. Marv. Don't. I just need, but she yelled, Girl, I'm not a bank. I know. I gave you the advance in July. I gave you the other advance in August. My wife is going to cut my throat in my sleep. You understand that? I wasn't going to ask. He looked at her for a second with something that might have been pity if he'd had the energy for it. Then he sighed and said, 2 hours. Finish up. Go home. Get some sleep. You look like hell. Thanks, Marv. I mean it. You're not pretty when you're tired, and you need to be pretty for this job. She almost told him to go fuck himself, but the paycheck was more important than the principal, and principals didn't pay for chemotherapy, so she just nodded and went back out front. The drunk woman was gone. She'd left a $5 bill and 2 quarters on a $7 tab. The trucker was still asleep. The clock above the coffee station read 2:32. Outside, rain had started. Not real rain, the thin kind that didn't commit, just enough to slick the parking lot and make the neon blue star sign bleed red and blue across the wet asphalt. A semi passed on Route 9, its light sweeping through the windows, and then the road was empty again, and the diner was just Lila and the hum of the coolers and the dying fluorescent over booth 4. She wiped down the counter. She refilled the sugar caddies. She thought about her mother, who at that exact moment was probably awake in room 412 of Overlake Regional because the nurse on the overnight shift always forgot to close the door and the hallway light kept her up. She thought about the way her mother's hands had started to look. Thinner every week. The skin going translucent, the veins sitting up too close to the surface. She thought about the ring her mother still wore on her right hand, the one thing she'd never taken off in 24 years, not through the divorce that wasn't, not through the moves, not through the nights when Lila was small and they'd slept in the car. A gold band, heavy, with an odd dark green stone cut square and a small engraving on the inside her mother had never let her look at. It was your father's, her mother always said when she asked. Where is he? Gone, baby. A long time ago. Gone how? Just gone. That was the whole story Lila had ever been given. A gone man. A green-stoned ring. A mother who would not, under any circumstances, say his name out loud. The bell over the door rang. Lila looked up from the counter. 3 men walked into the Blue Star Diner at 2:47 on a Tuesday morning, and she knew before any of them said a word that they did not belong there. It was the coats first. All 3 of them wore long, dark overcoats, the kind that cost more than her car, wet across the shoulders from the rain. It was the shoes, second. Leather, polished, not a single salt stain, which in upstate New York in October meant a driver, and a driver meant a car you did not park yourself. It was the silence, third. Most men who came into the Blue Star at 3 in the morning were loud, drunk loud, or tired loud, or truck stop loud, which was its own category. These 3 didn't speak. They didn't even look at each other. They moved the way people move when they've already decided where they're going. The one in front was the oldest, 50s, maybe early 60s, tall, silver at the temples, the rest of his hair still dark, combed back. His face was the kind of face Lila's mother would have called built, all angle and bone, a nose that had been broken once a long time ago and set by someone who knew what they were doing. He wasn't handsome. He was past handsome. He was something harder than that. Something that had been handsome 40 years ago and had spent the decades since turning into a warning. The other two were younger. One was enormous, 6'4", shoulders like a doorframe, a beard trimmed close. The other was thin and quiet and had eyes that moved around the room the way a camera moves, cataloging exits. They took the booth by the window. The big one sat on the inside. The thin one sat across from him, facing the door. The older man sat at the end, back to the wall, where he could see the whole diner at once. Lila picked up 3 menus. Don't. She turned. Marv had come out of the kitchen and was standing very still in the pass-through window. His face had gone a color she'd never seen it go before, a kind of dry gray that started at his jaw and moved up. What? She said. Put the menus down. Marv. Put them down, Lila. She put them down on the counter. Go in the back. There's customers. Go in the back. The older man at the booth lifted one finger. Not a wave. Not a flag. Just a finger, raised maybe 2 inches off the formica, and somehow it crossed the entire room and landed on Marv like a hand on a shoulder. Marv's mouth closed. The older man spoke for the first time. His voice was low, unhurried, and carried the faintest accent. Not thick, just a softness around the vowels, a weight on the consonants that wasn't local. The girl is fine. Sir, the girl is fine, Marv. Go back to your kitchen. Lila stared at Marv. He knows his name. Marv stared back at her for a half second with an expression that looked, for the first time in 3 years, like something resembling fear. Then he nodded once, very small, and went back through the pass and out of sight. A door slammed somewhere behind the kitchen. The back door. He'd gone out the back door. The thin one at the booth said something quiet in a language that wasn't English. The big one almost smiled. The older man didn't react at all. Lila picked up the menus again. Her hands were shaking. She told them to stop, and they did not stop. She walked the 12 steps from the counter to the booth, and she thought the whole way that her legs were going to go out, that she was going to put a hand on a table to steady herself, and one of these men was going to mistake the movement for something else. And she did not know what happened after that, but she knew it would not be good. She reached the booth. Evening, she said, and her voice came out almost normal. Can I start you with coffee? The older man looked up at her. His eyes were dark brown, and they did the thing she'd read about in books but had never actually seen a person's eyes do. They took her in. Not looked at her. Took her in. Top of her head, the tired line of her hairline, the hollow under her cheekbone, the faded blue star name tag pinned over her left breast pocket, and her hands, which he looked at longest. Her hands. He looked at her hands the way a man looks at a word he thinks he recognizes but can't quite place. Coffee, he said. 3. Black. Anything to eat? No. Okay. She turned to go. Wait. She turned back. His eyes hadn't moved off her face. What is your name? The blue star had a rule, unwritten but absolute. You gave your first name and nothing more. Men always asked. You gave them Lila, and you did not give them anything else. And you did not let them see the name tag long enough to read the last initial below it, which was why Lila had scratched hers off with a thumbnail her first week. Lila. Lila. Yes, sir. Lila what? The big one at the booth shifted. The thin one at the booth did not shift, which was somehow more unsettling. Carter, she said. Lila Carter. The older man held very still. It was the stillness that she noticed more than anything. A man whose face did not move, and whose shoulders did not move, and whose hands, resting on the edge of the formica table, did not move, except that the index finger of his right hand, the one he had raised earlier, pressed down once, very lightly, against the tabletop. A tell. The only one he gave her. 3 coffees, he said. Black. Coming up? She walked back to the counter. Her hands were worse now. She picked up the pot and almost dropped it and caught it with her other hand. And when she turned around to pour the first cup, the thin one at the booth was watching her, and she understood in that moment that he had been watching her the whole time since she turned her back, and that he would have continued to watch her regardless of what she did. That was his job. She poured 3 coffees. She put them on a tray. She carried the tray across the room. She set the first one in front of the big one. She set the second one in front of the thin one. She set the third in front of the older man. And as she set it down, his hand moved, slowly, not reaching, just settling, from the edge of the table to the side of the mug. And when his hand moved, his sleeve moved with it, and 2 inches of white shirt cuff slid out from under the black wool coat. And on his right hand, on the 4th finger, there was a ring, a gold band, heavy, with a dark green stone cut square. Lila's whole body went cold at once, the way your body goes cold when you step off a curb you didn't see, and your foot hits the street and you realize, a half second late, that you could have been killed. The ring was identical to her mother's. Not similar, not like, identical. The same weight, the same cut, the same square green stone, a stone she had held in her palm 100 times as a child. A stone her mother used to let her turn under the lamp so that the light caught the dark center of it and made a small gold flare. She stood there with the empty tray in her hand for a count she did not remember counting. 2 seconds. 4. Go back to the counter, she told herself. Go back to the counter and go in the back and lock the door and call the police and do not say a single word to this man, because whatever this is, you are not supposed to know about it. Your mother made sure of that for 24 years. Go back to your ring. It came out of her before she'd decided to say it. The thin one moved. Not much. His hand left the table and went somewhere below it, and she knew exactly where it went. The older man said one word to him, quiet, in that other language. The hand came back up. The older man turned his face up to her. He had not moved in his seat. He looked at her with the same expression he'd had when he'd taken her in the first time, except now there was something added to it, something that hadn't been there before, a kind of careful, terrible attention. The attention of a man watching the second hand of a clock tick down toward a number he already knew was coming. What about it? He said. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. What about it, Lila? My mother, she said. And then she couldn't make any more words come out. He waited. My mother has a ring, she said, like that one. Exactly like that one. I've seen it my whole life. I'm sorry, it startled me. Your mother? Yes. Catherine. The floor went out from under her. She did not fall. She did not even move. She stood there with the empty tray hanging at her side and her mouth slightly open, and she looked down at this stranger in an expensive coat at booth number 3 of the Blue Star Diner off Route 9 in the middle of the night, in the middle of October, and she said, How do you know my mother's name? Sit down, Lila. How do you know my mother's name? Sit. The big one slid out of the booth to let her in. He didn't touch her. He didn't need to. He just stood up and moved out of the way and waited. And every instinct in her body told her that if she turned and ran for the door right now, the thin one would catch her before she made it to the parking lot. Not because he would hurry, but because her legs would not carry her that far. She sat down. The older man was directly across from her now. Up close, she could see the fine lines around his eyes and the faint scar that ran from the edge of his lower lip down into his jaw, and the fact that he was wearing a watch that cost more than her mother's entire treatment. My name, he said, is Adriano Vescari. Okay? That name means nothing to you. No, sir. It meant something to your mother. Her throat closed. Where is she? He said. I'm not going to tell you that. Something moved across his face. Not a smile. Something that had been a smile once, 40 years ago, before it had been made into something else. Good girl, he said. But I'll find her anyway. So you have 2 choices. You can tell me where she is and come with us, or I can find her without your help, in which case I will be less careful about it. Do you understand? No? No, you don't understand, or no, you won't come. No, I don't understand any of this. Who are you? What do you want? He put his hand flat on the table. The ring caught the light from the dying fluorescent above booth 4, and the dark green stone swallowed it. I want to see your mother, he said. I have been looking for her for 25 years. She told me he was dead. She told you who was dead? My father. A beat. She said he was dead a long time ago. She said that's why there was no... Lila's voice broke in the middle, and she hated herself for it. She said he was gone. Adriano Vescari looked at her for a very long time. The thin one at his right stopped scanning the room and looked at her too, and something in the thin one's face changed that she did not have a name for. What is your birthday, Lila? March 11th. What year? 2001. Where were you born? I don't know. I think somewhere in Ohio. She never liked to talk about it. Ohio. Yes. Your mother, he said, was not in Ohio in March of 2001. Your mother was in a house in a country you have never been to, and 2 weeks before you were born, she took 3 suitcases and a quantity of money that was not hers, and she disappeared. I have spent the last 25 years not finding her. And then tonight I come into a diner to meet a man about a matter that does not concern you. And there is a girl behind the counter who looks so much like Catherine when she was 24 that for a moment I thought I had lost my mind. And then the girl looks at my ring and says, my mother has one like that. I don't... Look at me, Lila. She looked at him. Look at my face. She looked at his face that was all angle and bone, his nose that had been broken, his jaw, his mouth, her own jaw, the shape of her own eyes set in the face of a man she had never seen before in her life. No, she said. Yes. No, that's not... That can't... Yes. My mother is sick, she said, and her voice had gone very small and very far away, like she was listening to someone else say it through a wall. She has stage 3 ovarian cancer. She's in a hospital. She needs... I know. She stared at him. You don't know. You can't know. I haven't told anyone. I have known where Catherine was for 6 weeks, Lila. I have known which hospital. I have known which doctor. I have known which treatment she needs and how much it costs, and how much of it you have and how much you don't. What I did not know was you. I did not know your name. I did not know you existed. Until tonight. The thin one said something in the other language again. It sounded this time like he was asking a question. Adriano answered without looking at him. So, she couldn't speak. So here's where we are. You're going to get up, you're going to take off your apron, and you're going to leave it on the counter. My son Marco... He tipped his head toward the big one, who had sat back down at the end of the booth and was watching the parking lot through the window, is going to drive your car back to wherever you live, and whatever is there that matters to you, he is going to bring. And you are going to come with me to the hospital, because your mother and I are going to have a conversation that is 25 years late. And after that conversation, you and I are going to have a different one. I'm not going anywhere with you. Lila, I don't know you. I don't know any of this. I think you have the wrong person. I think... He reached across the table. She flinched back, but he wasn't reaching for her. He was reaching past her, down to his own coat pocket, and when his hand came back up, he was holding something small in his palm. A photograph. Creased at the corners. Not new. He put it on the formica between them and pushed it across with one finger. A young woman, maybe 22, in a garden somewhere, wearing a pale dress and squinting into a sun that wasn't in the frame. Her hair was long and dark. She had her hand on her stomach, which was just barely rounded, and she was laughing at whoever was taking the picture. It was her mother. It was unquestionably her mother, and Lila had never, in her entire life, seen her mother laugh like that. She loved me once, Adriano said. Lila couldn't take her eyes off the picture. A long time ago, before any of this, before you, before, everything. She loved me. And then something happened that I was too stupid and too proud and too young to understand, and she was afraid. And she ran. And she was right to run, Lila. She was right to run then. She was not wrong. Then why are you here? Because she is dying. And because whatever she did to me, and whatever I did to her, there is a child. And I have spent 25 years of my life not having a child when I had one. She looked up at him. Her eyes had gone wet. She did not know when that had happened. I don't believe you, she said. I know. I want a DNA test. Something changed in his face. Not a smile. The beginning of one, maybe. The idea of one. Somewhere far back behind his eyes. Good. And I want my mother. I want to see my mother. Right now. Tonight. That is where we are going. And I'm not agreeing to anything. I'm not going with you. I want to see her. I want to hear her say whatever she's going to say, and then I'll decide, okay? Okay? Okay. She didn't move. He waited. Say it again, she said. Say what again? My mother's name? Say my mother's name again, the whole thing. Catherine Vescari. And there it was, the last piece of a name she'd never heard, falling into a space inside her chest that had been empty for 24 years without her knowing it was empty. She stood up. Her legs held. She was surprised by that. I need to... My apron. Leave it. My tips. The big one. Marco, she thought. His son. No, don't think that yet. The big one reached into an inside pocket of his coat and came out with a money clip that was thicker than any money clip had any right to be. He pulled out $300 bills without looking and laid them on the table under his untouched coffee cup. For the coffee, Adriano said. They walked out of the Blue Star Diner at 3:04 in the morning on a Tuesday in October. The rain had stopped. The parking lot was empty except for her old Civic with the rusted back fender and a black SUV parked crosswise at the far end that Lila could not remember having seen pull in. A fourth man was standing beside the SUV, smoking. He put out the cigarette when he saw them and opened the back door. Your phone, Adriano said. What? Your phone, Lila. Give it to Luca. Why? Because in about 20 minutes the hospital is going to call you, and you are not going to know what to say, and I would rather they call me. How are they going to call you? He looked at her. I'm going to call them first, he said. She handed over her phone. The thin one, Luca, apparently, took it without looking at her and dropped it into his own coat pocket as neatly as if he'd been handing things into that pocket his entire life. Lila got into the back of the SUV. The leather was warm. The dome light was off. She had not been in a car this nice, ever, in her entire life. And the fact that her first thought when she sat down was this is nice felt, to her, in that moment, like a small and specific betrayal of everything she had ever been. Adriano got in beside her. Marco drove. Luca took the passenger seat, and a fourth man, the one with the cigarette, she never learned his name, slid behind the wheel of her Civic and followed them out of the lot. They pulled onto Route 9 heading north toward Overlake. Lila. What? Your mother's not going to be happy to see me. No. She may say things to you when she sees me that are difficult to hear, about me, about herself, about you. Okay? Let her say them. Do not try to protect her from them. Do you understand? She has been holding these things inside her body for 25 years. Whatever is killing her, it is not only the cancer. Lila didn't answer. Outside the window, the sodium lights of Route 9 slid past in a long yellow chain. The hospital was 16 miles up the road. She had driven this route, back and forth, 4 times a week for 11 weeks, and she knew every mile of it, every exit, every billboard. She knew that they would pass the abandoned Chevy dealership in 4 minutes. She knew that just past the Chevy dealership, there was a turnoff to a county road that cut west through farmland, and if she could get the door open at that turnoff and roll out, she could be into the cornfield in 30 seconds, and child locks, Adriano said, without turning his head. She looked at him. On the doors, he said. In case you were thinking about it, I don't blame you. I would be thinking about it. I wasn't. You were. It's all right. You should be. If you were not thinking about it, I would be concerned about you. He turned his face to her for the first time since the diner. Up close, in the dim green light of the dashboard, he looked older than he had in the booth, and tired, and for one strange second he didn't look like a man who could make a waitress's hand shake from across a room. He just looked like a man who had been awake too long. Lila. What? When we get to the hospital, there will be 2 men in the lobby. They are mine. You do not need to be afraid of them. Okay. When we get to your mother's room, the doctor on call will meet us at the door. His name is Paul Hassan. I know Dr. Hassan. He is a very good oncologist, and he is about to become a much better paid one. Okay. The bill for your mother's treatment is, as of now, paid. All of it. Tonight. The new protocol, the old balance, everything. I have already made the call. You do not need to do the math in your head anymore. She hadn't realized she'd still been doing the math in her head until he said it, and hearing him say it was such a strange, specific relief, like a splinter being pulled out of her chest, that for a second she couldn't breathe around it. I don't want your money, she said, and her voice cracked in the middle. I know. I don't know you. I know. You don't get to... You can't just come in here and you can't buy my mother's life and think that... Lila. What? I'm not buying her life. He looked out the window. The light slid across his face. I'm paying a debt. I owe her that at least. Whatever else happens. Whatever she decides to tell you, whatever she decides to tell me, that part is already done. You understand? That part is not conditional. She didn't answer. Okay? Okay. They drove in silence for maybe a mile. Lila. What? The ring she wears. On her right hand. Yes? Did she ever tell you what the engraving says? On the inside. No, she never let me look. He looked down at his own hand. At the twin of her mother's ring. The green stone caught the passing lights and flickered. It says until I find you, he said, in a language you don't speak. I had them made the year before we were married. There are only 2 of them in the world. Lila looked at him. She looked at him for a long time, at the sharp angle of his jaw, at the broken nose, at the scar at the corner of his mouth, at the dark brown eyes she had seen in the mirror every morning of her life without ever knowing where they came from. She turned her face back to the window. The Chevy dealership went past. The turnoff to the county road went past. She didn't reach for the door. 16 miles up Route 9, in room 412 of Overlake Regional Medical Center, Catherine Carter was awake because the hallway light was on, and the nurse had forgotten to close her door. She was thinking about her daughter, who she had not told the truth to in 24 years, and she was thinking that tomorrow, when Lila came in for her visit, she was going to finally tell her. She did not know that in 9 minutes, the decision was going to be taken out of her hands. She did not know that the man she had spent 25 years running from was about to walk through her hospital door with their daughter beside him, wearing the ring she'd last seen on his hand the night she ran. She only knew that her ring had started to feel heavy, the way it used to feel heavy when she was young, and she had been turning it on her finger for the past hour without meaning to. She turned it again. Under the hospital sheets, in the yellow wash of the hallway light, the green stone flickered once. And somewhere south of her, 16 miles down a wet black road, a black SUV was coming. The SUV pulled up under the portico at Overlake Regional at exactly 3:31 in the morning, and Lila watched through the tinted window as 2 men in dark suits uncoiled from a parked sedan by the ambulance bay and began walking toward the main entrance before Marco had even put the car in park. "Those are ours," Adriano said. "How did they get here before us?" "They were here before your mother was admitted." She turned her head to him. 6 weeks, he said. "I told you." Luca got out first. He did not open her door. He walked around to Adriano's side instead, and Adriano stepped out and said something low to him in the other language, and Luca nodded once and peeled off toward the 2 men at the entrance. Marco came around to Lila's side and opened her door and stood back, not touching her, just waiting. "I can walk." "I know. I've been walking into this hospital 4 nights a week for 11 weeks. "I know that too." She got out. Her knees did the buckling thing again, and she caught herself on the doorframe, and she hated that Marco saw it. And she hated more that he didn't react. He just waited until she had her feet under her, and then he shut the door behind her, softly, the way you shut a door in a house where someone is sleeping. The automatic doors of the main entrance hissed open. The lobby was empty except for a security guard at the desk, who was already standing up, and a thin black woman in a white coat who was walking toward them from the direction of the elevators. She had a clipboard tucked under one arm and reading glasses pushed up into her hair and the kind of expression on her face that Lila had seen on a lot of night shift doctors. The flat, polite exhaustion of someone who had stopped being surprised by anything a long time ago. "Mr. Vescari, doctor. This must be Lila." "It is." The doctor turned to her and her face softened, just a little, not in a way that anyone but Lila would have seen. "Honey, I'm Eileen Hassan. I'm your mother's oncologist. I've been meaning to meet you in person for a while now, but we keep missing each other. I work nights." "I know you do. Your mother's told me, many times." Lila swallowed. "Is she?" "She's all right. She's awake. I was just up there. She had a rough afternoon, but she's stable, and her labs this evening were actually a little better than I was hoping for. She's a tough woman, your mom." "I know." Dr. Hassan looked at Adriano. and her face did something complicated. Not unfriendly, but the professional neutrality of a woman who had understood, in the last 90 minutes, that the parameters of her job had changed in a way she had not asked for. Mr. Vescari, I want to say something, and I want to say it in front of your daughter, because she should hear it. I appreciate the financial commitments you've made tonight. They're going to change what we can do for Catherine. But I am her doctor, and whatever else is happening here, whatever this is, she is still my patient first. If at any point in this next hour, I think your presence is doing her harm, I'm going to ask you to leave, and I expect you to leave. Are we understood on that? We are. Good. She turned back to Lila. You want to come up with me? I'll take you first. I think she should see you alone for a minute before the rest. Yes, please. Mr. Vescari, if you and your son, an associate, if you and your son and your associate would wait in the family lounge on 4, I'll come get you when she's ready. She may not be ready. Then you'll wait longer. Adriano looked at her for a moment, and Lila braced for something. She didn't know what, but what he did was nod once, very small, exactly the way Marv had nodded at him in the diner. Of course, doctor. In the elevator, it was just Lila and Dr. Hassan. The doors closed. The doctor waited until they started moving before she spoke. Lila, are you okay? No. Okay, I just wanted to ask. Is he paying you extra to do this? Dr. Hassan let out a breath that was almost a laugh. He is paying the hospital an amount of money that, if you knew the number, would probably make you pass out. He is not paying me personally. I would not accept it if he offered. I'm telling you the same thing I would tell you if your mother's bill had been covered by a GoFundMe. She is my patient, and you are her family. And right now, the only thing I care about is that she gets to have whatever conversation she's about to have without her blood pressure going through the roof, okay? Okay. Is he really? The doctor stopped herself. Yeah. Jesus. Yeah. The elevator opened on 4. They walked down the corridor, past the nursing station where a heavy-set woman in lilac scrubs looked up and then very deliberately looked back down at her monitor. And Lila thought about how many people in this hospital had known something about her mother in the last 6 weeks that she hadn't. Room 412 was the 4th door on the left. The hallway light was on. The door was ajar. Dr. Hassan touched Lila's elbow. I'll be right out here. Lila pushed the door open. Her mother was awake. She was propped up on 2 pillows, and someone, a nurse, at some point in the last hour, had helped her put on the pink cardigan she liked over her hospital gown, the one with the small coffee stain on the right sleeve that she wouldn't let Lila throw out. Her hair, what was left of it, was tied back with a piece of yarn. Her face was the color of old paper. She had been crying recently, and she had stopped. She looked up when Lila came in. Her eyes moved over Lila's face, and then down to Lila's hands, and then back up, and something in her went very still, and Lila understood before a word was spoken that her mother already knew. Mom, you saw him. Yes. Where? The diner. Catherine Vescari, closed her eyes. She nodded slowly, the way you nod when a doctor has just told you something you had prepared yourself for years ago. Oh, baby. Lila crossed the room. She didn't remember walking. She was just suddenly at the side of the bed, and she was holding her mother's hand, the one with the ring on it, and she was crying, and she had not cried in front of her mother in a year and a half. Is it true? Sit down, Lila. Is it true? Sit down first. Lila sat in the vinyl chair next to the bed. She kept her mother's hand in hers. She could feel the ring under her thumb. She could feel the pulse in her mother's wrist, thin and fast and wrong. Tell me it's not true. Tell me he's lying. Tell me and I'll go out there and I'll tell him to leave. It's true. Mom. It's true, baby. All of it. Whatever he told you. Yes. You told me he was dead. I know. You told me he was dead my whole life. You said he died in a car accident before I was born. You said his family never wanted anything to do with us. You said, I know what I said. Why? Her mother looked at her for a long time, and then she took her hand back slowly and reached up with both hands and pulled the pink cardigan closer around her shoulders like she was suddenly cold. "Because if I told you what he really was," she said, "you would have spent your whole childhood afraid. And because I was afraid he would find us, and because I was a 23-year-old girl who had done something very stupid and very dangerous, and I did not know any other way to keep us alive." "What did you do?" "I stole from him." "How much?" Her mother let out a breath that had a small laugh buried inside it, a dry little ruined sound. "A lot, baby, a lot of money. You don't need the number." "How much, Mom?" 4.5. 4.5 what? Million. Lila stared at her. "You stole $4.5 million. I took what was in a house. From him. From him, yes, and from his father, who was worse. And you've been a waitress. You've been a receptionist. You worked at a Goodwill for 2 years. We lived in that apartment over the laundromat with the roaches." "Mom, we had roaches?" "I didn't keep it, baby." "What?" "I didn't keep any of it." Catherine closed her eyes. When she opened them, there was something in her face that Lila had never seen before, a kind of naked, sunken honesty. The face of a woman who had been carrying a thing for so long that setting it down had left her hollow. "I took it," she said, "because if I just ran, he would have come after me the way he comes after everyone else, and I knew it. And I knew that the one thing he would not chase me for harder than money was me. If I made it about money, it was business. If it was just about me leaving, it was blood. So I took the money. I took enough to hurt him, enough to make sure a piece of him was always going to be trying to recover it, and I gave it away." "To who?" 2 women's shelters in Pennsylvania, a hospice in upstate New York, a clinic in Kentucky, a school for deaf children in, I don't even remember, baby, somewhere in Indiana. Cash in envelopes over 8 months while I was pregnant with you and moving every 2 weeks. I kept exactly $11,000 out of it. For the car. For the first apartment. For your first 6 months of formula. And then I got a job and I never touched his money again." Lila could not speak. "You were born in a Catholic hospital in Toledo under a false name. I put Carter on your birth certificate because Carter is the most common name I could think of. I moved us 4 times before you were 3. I cut my hair. I changed the way I dressed. I never kept a photograph of him. I threw out the wedding ring, and I kept this one." She lifted her right hand, and the ring caught the fluorescent hospital light, and the dark green stone flickered. "Because the day I took it off, he would know I was done, and as long as I was wearing it, some part of him would still think I might come home. It was a bet, baby. It was a stupid, sentimental bet, and it lost me 25 years of looking over my shoulder. Why didn't you throw that one away too?" Her mother looked down at the ring. "Because I loved him," she said. "Once, a long time ago, before I understood what he was." Lila put her face in her hands. She sat there like that for a while. Her mother did not touch her. The machines next to the bed made their small, regular sounds. Out in the hallway, a cart rolled past, and someone somewhere was laughing at something on a television. "Mom." "Yeah, baby. He paid the bill." "I figured. All of it. The new treatment, everything. He said, Dr. Hassan said, I heard him on the phone. I heard her on the phone. Yes." "Are you going to take it?" Catherine didn't answer for a long moment. "Do you want me to?" "I don't know. Be honest, baby. I want you to live." "Yes." "I want you to live, Mom. I want you to... I don't care where the money comes from. I don't care if... I don't..." Lila's voice cracked. "I've been sitting in the employee bathroom at the diner every night doing math. I've been calling the billing office and pretending I have a plan. I don't have a plan. I never had a plan. I was going to lose you, and I was going to be alone, and I was... Stop. Mom. Stop, baby. Come here." Lila got up and sat on the edge of the hospital bed. Her mother put one thin arm around her shoulders. It did not feel the way her mother's arms had felt when she was a child. Her mother's arms had once been the safest place in the world. Now they felt like paper around a candle. She could feel the bones. "Listen to me," her mother said into her hair. "Listen to me, Lila. I am going to take his money. I am going to take all of it, because you are right, and because I am too tired to die on principle, and because I would like very much to see you turn 25. Do you hear me?" "Yes." But you need to understand what that means. What does it mean? Catherine pulled back. She held Lila's face in both hands. Up close, her eyes were the same eyes Lila had looked into her whole life. The same gray-blue her mother had passed down to her without anything else. Not the dark brown that had come from the man in the lobby 4 floors down. If I take his money, she said, he gets a piece of us back. He gets the piece he's been owed for 25 years. And the piece he wants is you. I don't belong to him. No, you don't. You never will. But he is going to try, baby. He is going to try in every way he knows how, and the ways he knows how are not small. He will offer you things you have never imagined. He will offer them in ways that do not look like offers. He has spent 30 years learning how to make people want to belong to him, and he is very, very good at it. And you are his daughter, and you are tired, and you are 24 years old, and you have been carrying me on your back for 3 years, and a part of you is going to want to set me down. Lila shook her head. It's okay if that part of you wants that, baby. That part of you is human. I don't want to set you down. I know, but I'm telling you what is coming. What do I do? Listen to him. Meet the people. Let him show you the house. Let him buy you whatever he wants to buy you. Eat his food. Drink his wine. I do not want you to fight him for the sake of fighting him, because the only thing that man respects less than his enemies is people who are afraid of him. Do you understand? Yes, but do not... Lila, look at me. Do not mistake what he is. Do not mistake kindness for safety. Do not mistake money for love. Do not mistake the way he is going to look at you, which is going to be the way a man looks at a daughter he has missed for 25 years, for a reason to drop your guard. He has missed you. That is real. The rest of what he is also real. Both things are true at the same time. If you forget the second one, it will kill you. Do you understand me, baby? Yes. Say it. I understand. Good. Catherine let go of her face. She leaned back into the pillow. She had gone very pale, and Lila pulled back and looked at her, really looked at her, and realized with a small sick twist that the conversation had already cost her something. Mom, I'll get the doctor. In a minute. Mom, in a minute, Lila. Sit down. There's one more thing. Lila sat. You're going to want a test, her mother said. For proof. I already asked him. A small, proud movement at the corner of her mother's mouth. Good. I told him I wouldn't agree to anything until I saw the result. Good, baby. I don't know what to believe, Mom. He said the engraving on your ring. He said what it said, and he said there were only 2 of them in the world, and Her mother closed her eyes again. Finché non ti trovi. What? Until I find you. It's Italian. He had them made in the spring of 1999. She opened her eyes. There are only 2 of them. He has the other one. He had it when I met him. He was wearing it when I left. Okay. Mom, can he come in now? He wants to see you. Her mother took a long, careful breath. Yes. You sure? No. But yes. Lila stood up. At the door, she turned back. Mom? Yeah, baby. What was he like before? Catherine looked at the ceiling for a while. He was 26 years old, she said. He had been to university. He spoke 4 languages. He read poetry in the languages he spoke. He was not a kind man even then, but he was. Capable of it. In specific directions. At specific times. He loved his mother. He loved me. He was going to be better than his father. He used to tell me that. He used to say, I am not going to be what my father is. And he meant it every time he said it. And every year he said it, he looked more like his father than the year before. That was the part I couldn't stay for, Lila. It wasn't that he was becoming a monster. It was that he was becoming the specific monster I knew he was going to become. And I could already see, in the way he touched my stomach when I was pregnant with you, that he was going to raise you to be one too. That's why I ran. Not because of what he was, because of what he was going to make you. Okay? You tell him that if he ever asks. I'll tell him. She opened the door. Dr. Hassan was standing across the hall, pretending to read something on her clipboard. Past her, at the end of the corridor, Adriano was standing with his back to the wall and his hands in his coat pockets, looking at a framed print of a lighthouse that Lila had walked past 40 times without ever noticing, and his face in profile. In the bad fluorescent light of the 4th floor hallway, was the face of a man who was trying very hard to look like a man who was not afraid of what was on the other side of a door. He turned when he heard her. He did not move toward her. "She wants to see you," Lila said. He nodded. "She's tired," Lila said. "If you upset her, Dr. Hassan is going to throw you out. And if Dr. Hassan doesn't, I will." Understood. He walked down the hall. He stopped at the door. He put his hand flat against the wood for a moment before he pushed it open. And Lila saw it, and Dr. Hassan saw it, and neither of them said anything. And then he was inside the room, and the door was closed, and Lila was standing in the hallway with her arms wrapped around herself, shaking. Dr. Hassan put a hand between her shoulder blades, lightly. "You want coffee, sweetheart?" "Yes, please." "Come on." They went down the hall to the family lounge. Marco and Luca were there. Marco was on his phone, speaking quietly in what Lila now understood was Italian. Luca was not on his phone. Luca was watching the door. When Lila came in, Luca looked at her for a half second and then looked back at the door, and Marco ended his call and stood up. "Is she—" "He's in with her now," Lila said. Marco nodded. Up close, in the full light, he was younger than she'd realized in the diner, maybe 28, 30. And he had Adriano's jaw and Adriano's mouth, but gentler eyes. Eyes that had not yet learned how to go flat the way his father's went flat. He looked at her with a kind of careful, assessing curiosity that she could not immediately read. "I'm Marco." "I got that." "I wasn't sure if anyone had—" "Your father introduced you." "Right." He almost smiled. "I'm sorry. This is a strange night for all of us." "Is it?" "I've had a sister," Marco said, "for 45 minutes. She looked at him. It was a thing she had not thought of yet. She had not had time to think of it. "I have a brother," she said. "Half." "Half." "Two," he said. "There's Dante. He's younger. He's still in Italy. He's 21. He's an idiot, but he's a nice idiot. You'll like him." "I'm not meeting anyone." "Okay. I'm not agreeing to any of this. I heard you in the car. You were in the front. The car has a—" "Never mind. I heard you. It's okay. You don't have to agree to anything tonight. My father knows that. He's not a good man, Lila. I'm not going to lie to you. But he is not stupid, and he is not in a hurry, and he is not going to make you sign anything." "What about you? What about me? Are you a good man?" Marco looked at her for a second, and she saw in his face that the question surprised him. And she saw in his face that he took a half second to decide what to say, and she saw in his face that what he decided to say was the truth. "No." "Okay. But I'm not going to hurt you." "Why?" "Because you're my sister, and because my father would kill me, in that order." Dr. Hassan came back into the lounge with 2 cups of coffee in paper cups. She handed one to Lila. She looked at Marco and Luca and did not offer them any, which Lila appreciated in a way she would not have been able to articulate. "I need to check on another patient," Dr. Hassan said. "I'll be back in 15 minutes. Lila, if anything happens, if she calls out, if the machines, I'll come get you." "Good girl." Dr. Hassan left. Lila sat down in one of the vinyl chairs. Marco sat across from her. Luca stayed standing by the door. Nobody spoke for a long time. The coffee was terrible. She drank it anyway. Her hands had finally stopped shaking, and she noticed that, and she thought, that's the adrenaline leaving, that's the crash, and she was not wrong. And about 2 minutes later, she started to cry, quietly, without sound, just tears coming down her face and into her collar. Marco got up and got a box of tissues off the side table and set it next to her and sat back down without saying anything. Luca, by the door, did not turn around, which she also appreciated. "You okay?" Marco said eventually. "No." "Okay. Don't ask me that again." "Okay." She pulled 2 tissues out of the box and wiped her face. "How did he find her?" "A nurse." "What?" "At the hospital. 6 weeks ago. There's a nurse who works on 3 nights who owed my father a favor from a long time ago. She saw a patient intake form with the name Catherine Carter and the age and the physical description, and my father has people looking for her in a lot of places, all the time, always has. It wasn't a net just for her. It's a net for a lot of people. She happened to fall into it. She was sick in a hospital, and a nurse sold her out. The nurse did not sell her out, Lila. The nurse owed a debt that was older than you are. My father pays his debts, and he collects them. It's not personal. It is personal, okay? It's personal. A nurse in a hospital. Jesus. Marco didn't say anything. What did he do for the next 6 weeks? Watched. That's it. No. He also paid, quietly. A lot of your mother's labs, the MRI, the specialist consult, the hospital thinks those were covered by a grant. They weren't. That was my father. He has been paying for her care through channels for about a month. He didn't want her to know. He wasn't sure what he was going to do. He didn't know about you. He didn't know you existed until tonight. He said that in the car. It was true in the car. It's still true. He didn't know he had a daughter. No. For 24 years. No. And tonight he walks into a diner to do... What was he doing at the diner, Marco? Marco's face shifted. He's not going to tell me, is he? He might. Eventually. But not tonight. No. Tonight he has other problems. Like me. You're not a problem. I feel like a problem. You feel like a miracle, Lila, to him. Whether or not that's a thing you want to be. Lila drank the rest of the terrible coffee and set the cup on the floor next to her chair. Out the window of the family lounge, the sky had gone the color. It went right before dawn in October, a bruised, unclean kind of blue. The parking lot below was starting to fill with the first cars of the day shift. Marco. Yeah. He said there's going to be a DNA test. There is. It's already been arranged. When? Now. As soon as you want. There's a lab tech waiting downstairs. She'll swab you, and she'll swab my father, and she'll take it to a private lab in Manhattan, and we will have a result by tomorrow evening. The lab is one we use. It is not a lab that makes mistakes. I want to do it tonight. Okay. I want to do it before she signs anything, before he pays anything else, before I go anywhere. He already paid, Layla. I know, going forward. I want the test result before I agree to anything else, before I get in another car with him. Marco nodded. I understand. I'll set it up. Give me 5 minutes. He got up and went out. Luca stayed by the door. Lila closed her eyes and leaned her head back against the vinyl and listened to the small sounds of the hospital. The elevator dinging down the hall, a cartwheel squeaking, a voice on an overhead page paging a doctor whose name she did not catch. He is with her for a long time, Luca said. She opened her eyes. It was the first time Luca had spoken. His voice was soft, and his accent was thicker than Adriano's, and his face, when she looked at it, was not the face she had expected. Who are you? She said. I drive. That is not the only thing you do. No. How long have you worked for him? 16 years. Do you like him? Luca smiled. It was a small, tired smile. That is a question a 24-year-old girl asks. I am a 24-year-old girl. Yes, you are. Well, I do not have to like him, miss. I have to do my job. He pays me well. He has never once lied to me. These are not small things in this world. But you don't like him. I did not say that. You didn't not say it. Luca looked at her for a long second. You are going to be a great deal of trouble, I think. Good. The door opened. Marco came back in with a thin woman in a lab coat carrying a small black case, and behind them, walking slowly, was Adriano. Layla looked at him and felt her stomach turn over. His face had changed. She had spent 40 minutes in the company of a man whose face did not move, whose face was a wall. And the man walking into the family lounge now had been crying. Not recently. His eyes were dry, and his composure was back in place like a thing he had put on at the door. But in the last 20 minutes, inside that hospital room, Adriano Vescari had cried, and he had not tried to hide it before he walked back out here. He did not look at Lila right away. He looked at the lab tech. Do it here, he said. Me first, then my daughter. The tech set the case on the coffee table and snapped it open. She worked quickly. She swabbed the inside of Adriano's cheek, sealed the swab in a tube, labeled it, initialed it. She turned to Lila. Ma'am, may I? Yes. The swab against the inside of her cheek was brief and unpleasant, and she held still for it, And then the tech sealed the second tube and labeled it and put both tubes into the case and closed the case and locked it. And Lila watched the whole thing with a kind of dreamlike clarity, as if she were sitting somewhere else, watching a movie of a girl getting swabbed in a hospital family lounge at 4 in the morning by a woman she'd never met. The result will be available by 9 p.m. tomorrow, Mr. Vescari. Send it to me and to her simultaneously. Yes, sir. Her number. Luca pulled Lila's phone out of his pocket. He handed it back to her. It was unlocked, which meant he had been through it. She did not mention this. She did not have the energy. Give your number to the tech, Adriano said. She gave her number to the tech. The tech left. Marco and Luca followed, one after the other, without being told. The door closed. It was Lila and Adriano in the lounge. He stood there for a moment with his hands in his pockets, looking at the window instead of at her. Then he walked to the chair Marco had been sitting in, and he sat down slowly, like a much older man than he had seemed in the diner, and he put his hands flat on his knees and he looked at the floor. She looks like she is dying, Lila. I know. Dr. Hassan says the new protocol has a 70% response rate. Yes. She told me last week. Yes. What did she say to you? He let out a long breath. She said, he said, that I was not going to take you from her. She said that if she had to claw her way out of this bed to stop me, she would. She said that you had grown up to be a better person than either of us deserve, and that I did not get to undo that with money or time. She said that if I tried, she would do to me what she did when she was 23, except she would not bother to hide, this time, because she had nothing left to lose. Sounds like her. She said a lot of other things also. Most of them were true. Some of them hurt. Did you say sorry? He looked up at her. For a second, his face did a thing she had not seen it do yet. It flickered the way a light flickers when a truck goes by on a road outside, a small broken instability at the corners of the mouth and in the muscles around the eyes. I tried, he said. I did not do a good job of it. She told me I have not had enough practice. No, she is probably right about that too. She's usually right about that kind of thing. I am learning. They sat there for a while. Outside, the sky kept getting lighter. In room 412 down the hall, her mother was probably trying to sleep, and probably not sleeping, and probably turning the ring on her right hand the way she had been turning it for 25 years. Somewhere in Manhattan, a lab tech was getting ready to run 2 swabs that Lila already knew the result of, because she had looked at his face in the dashboard light on Route 9, and she had seen her own jaw in his jaw, and there was no honest part of her that could pretend otherwise. Lila. What? Whatever the test says, it's going to say yes. I know. Then don't qualify it. All right. He put his hands flat together in front of his mouth, like a man praying, except not. When it says yes, when we have the paper, I would like, if you will allow it, for you to come with me to the house I keep in this country. Not forever. Not to stay. Just for a little while, so that I can show you who your family is, so that you can decide with information whether you want any part of it. Your mother will stay here. She will have the best care that exists. I will not ask her to come, and I will not ask you to decide anything until she is well enough to tell you, herself, what she wants you to do. That is what she made me promise. That is what I am promising you now. How long? A week. A week. A week. You can leave whenever you want. Luca will drive you anywhere you ask. I will not lock a door. I will not take your phone again. I will not... He stopped. I have done a great many things in my life, Layla. I have not often lied about what I was doing. I am not going to start with you. A week. A week. And if at the end of the week I want to come back to the diner and my apartment and my life, then you will. And you'll just let me. I will not let you do anything. You are a grown woman. I will respect your decision. I am also not stupid enough to think that if you go back to the diner, you will be the same person you were the day before yesterday. But that will be your problem to live with, not mine to solve for you. Lila looked at him. She told me, she said, to let you show me the house and the people and whatever you want to show me. She said not to fight you for the sake of fighting you. She said you respect enemies more than you respect people who are afraid of you. She is correct. She also said you have missed me, and that part is real, and that everything else is also real, both at the same time, and that if I forget the second one, it will kill me. Adriano did not move. She said that to you. Almost those words. He looked down at his hands. Your mother, he said, was the smartest person I have ever known. I have spent 25 years in the company of men who were not half as smart as her, and I have let myself sometimes forget what I was missing. Listen to her, Lila. On this, on anything. Listen to her before you listen to me. Do you understand? Yes. Good. Dr. Hassan appeared in the doorway. She's asking for you, honey. Lila stood up. At the door, she turned back. We'll do the week, she said. After the test. I'll do the week. But I'm not agreeing to anything else. Not the name, not the whatever this is. Not any of it. 1 week. Then I decide. Both of us understand that. Both of us understand that. Okay. She walked out. She did not look back. Behind her, in the family lounge, Adriano Vescari sat alone in a vinyl chair in a hospital in upstate New York as the sun came up, with his face in his hands and nobody in the world to see him do it. The test result came at 7 minutes past 9 the next evening, and Lila was sitting on the edge of a hospital chair with a paper cup of vending machine coffee going cold in her hand when both phones in the room buzzed at once, hers on the arm of the chair, Adriano's in the inside pocket of his coat, and for about 3 seconds, neither of them moved. Her mother moved first. Open it, baby. Mom. Open it. Lila opened it. The email was from a lab in Manhattan she had never heard of, and the body of it was 2 paragraphs of sterile language about loci and markers and confidence intervals, and at the bottom, in a font that was not bold but somehow read as bold anyway, was the phrase probability of paternity. 99.9998%. She read it twice. She turned the phone around so her mother could see. Catherine looked at it for a long time without any expression at all, and then she let out a breath she had apparently been holding for 24 years, and then she closed her eyes and did not open them for a while. Okay, she said to nobody. Across the room, Adriano was standing by the window with his back to them, reading the same words on his own phone. He did not turn around right away. When he did, his face was composed, but he did not look at Lila. He looked at her mother, Catherine. I know, Adriano. I didn't need the paper. I know. I would like to say, don't. All right. Not here. Not in this room. Say whatever you need to say somewhere else. He nodded once. He put the phone back in his coat. He walked to the door and stopped with his hand on the handle. I'll be in the hall. Thank you. He went out. The door clicked behind him. Lila sat very still with the cooling coffee in her hand and waited, because she had learned in 24 years that when her mother got quiet like this, the thing to do was wait. Baby. Yeah. Come here. Lila sat on the edge of the bed. Her mother took her hand. Her mother's hand was warmer than it had been last night, which was the first warm thing Lila had felt in 3 days. The new protocol started this morning. I know. I was here. Eileen says the first cycle is the one I'll feel the worst. I know. I want you to go with him. Lila's head came up. Mom, listen, Lila. You made him a deal. A week. Go. Do the week. See what you're dealing with. Because whatever I say to you in this room, whatever I tell you about him, it is going to sound like the bitterness of a woman who left him 25 years ago, and you are going to need to see it yourself with your own eyes to know what I mean. Do you understand? I don't want to leave you. I know. You just started treatment, and I will be here when you get back. Whether this works or doesn't work, baby, it is not a 7-day question. You coming back in a week is not going to change what this protocol does to me. If it's going to work, it will work whether or not you are holding my hand. If it isn't, you being here is not going to make it work. Mom, I need you to hear me, Lila. I have spent 24 years not letting that man touch you. I did that. It's done. I am giving you permission. I am telling you, I am asking you to go for a week and look. Because if you don't look now, while I'm still here to tell you what you're looking at, you're going to spend the rest of your life wondering, and wondering is worse than knowing. Wondering is what I have been doing for 25 years, and it is the reason I am lying in this bed 5 years before I should be. That's not, Mom, that's not why. It is a piece of why, baby. Stress is a thing that eats you, Guilt is a thing that eats you. Looking over your shoulder for 25 years is a thing that eats you. The cancer is the cancer. But the rest of it didn't help. I don't want that for you. I want you to know what he is so that you can decide on the other side of knowing what you want to do with it, okay? Lila wiped her face with the back of her hand. Okay, good girl. Now go tell him he's got his week. She went out. Adriano was at the far end of the hall, standing by the window at the dead end past the nurse's station, looking down at the parking lot. He had his hands in his coat pockets, and he was not moving, and the corridor light made a thin bar across the silver at his temples. And for one strange half-second, Lila saw him the way her mother must have seen him 30 years ago. A tall man in a good coat, looking at something only he could see, already most of the way to becoming whatever he was going to become. She walked down the hall. She says, yes. He turned. A week, she said. Starting tomorrow. My terms. Your terms. I come back anytime I want. You don't take my phone. I call my mother every day, twice. I see Dr. Hassan's updates. You don't put me in a room I can't leave. You don't introduce me to anyone as your daughter until I say I'm ready. You don't... Lila. What? Yes, to all of it. You didn't hear all of it. I don't need to. Yes. Whatever you're going to ask, the answer is yes. That's stupid. I could ask you anything. You could. I could ask you for a Ferrari. A muscle in his jaw moved, the closest thing to a laugh she had yet seen from him. You are going to be disappointed, I think, with how easily you will get a Ferrari if you want one. We should save that for when you are asking me for something hard. I don't want a Ferrari. Good. They are uncomfortable. She looked at him. She didn't know what to do with any of it. His tiredness, his almost humor, the way he had listened at her mother's door last night and done exactly what he'd said he would do, and nothing more. She didn't trust it. She couldn't afford to trust it. She could feel her mother's voice in the back of her head. Do not mistake kindness for safety. Do not mistake money for love. Tomorrow morning, she said. 10. I need to go to my apartment first. I need to pack. I need to call Marv and tell him I'm not coming in. I will send someone to pack for you. No. Lila, no. I pack my own stuff. I decide what comes with me. All right. And I want the car. What car? My car. The Civic. Wherever your guy parked it last night, I want the keys back and I want it at the hospital in the morning. I'll drive myself to my apartment, I'll pack, and then I'll meet you wherever I'm meeting you. You are going to drive your Civic to the house. I'm going to drive my Civic to my apartment, and then your people can follow me from there however they want, in whatever they want. But I am driving the Civic because it is mine, and because if at any point this week I want to leave, I want it parked where I can see it. He looked at her for a long moment. All right, he said. The keys will be at the front desk in the morning. Good. Lila. What? That was very well done. Don't patronize me. I'm not. I am telling you, you negotiated well. You should know when you have done something well. It is how you learn to do it again. She didn't know what to say to that, so she didn't say anything. She turned around and walked back down the hall and went into her mother's room and shut the door behind her. And she sat down on the edge of the bed, and her mother took her hand without opening her eyes, and neither of them spoke for a long time. She slept that night on the vinyl chair in room 412 with her jacket rolled up under her head and her mother's hand in hers, and she woke twice to the sound of the blood pressure cuff inflating and once to the sound of her mother being quietly, terribly sick into a kidney-shaped tray that a nurse held for her without a word. And by 6 in the morning, Lila was awake and washing her face in the little hospital bathroom and looking at herself in the mirror, the dark circles, the chapped mouth, the 2-day shirt, and thinking that this was the last version of herself she was going to see for a while. Her car was at the front entrance at 8. Keys at the desk, just like he'd said. There was a full tank of gas, which it had not had when she'd parked it at the Blue Star 2 nights ago, and the rusted back fender had not been fixed, which she appreciated in a small, mean way. She drove the 9 miles to her apartment with the radio off, because she didn't trust what a song would do to her, and she parked on the street in front of the laundromat and sat in the driver's seat for a minute with her hands on the wheel before she went up. The apartment was the way she'd left it at 10 the previous morning. Dishes in the sink, her mother's pink slippers by the door because she still kept them there. A bill from the gas company open on the kitchen table. It was small. It had a water stain on the bedroom ceiling, It had cost her $1,100 a month for 2 years and had been the first place she had ever rented on her own name. And standing in the doorway of it now, with her car keys still in her hand, she thought, I may not live here anymore. She didn't know where that thought came from. It scared her. She packed a duffel bag, 2 pairs of jeans, 4 shirts, underwear, her toothbrush, her mother's rosary, which she did not pray but which had belonged to her grandmother, the one nice dress she owned, which was black and knee-length and 3 years old, and she would later be embarrassed by, her charger, a paperback copy of a novel she had been failing to finish for 6 months, her wallet, which had $72 in it, and the 43 from her apron at the diner, which she put in her wallet because she had not yet absorbed that she might not need to count it anymore. She called Marv from the kitchen. Delano. Marv, it's Lila. There was a long silence. You okay, kid? I'm okay. Another silence. I've been trying to call you. I know. I'm sorry. There was a thing at the hospital. A thing? Yeah. Uh-huh. Marv breathed out. Listen, Lila. Whatever happened the other night, whatever that was, I don't want any part of it, okay? I cleared out of there, and I went home and I told my wife a lie about what I saw, and that is where I am leaving it. Do you understand me? I understand. Good. I'm calling to tell you I'm not coming in this week. This week. Maybe not for a while. Yeah. Marv, don't, kid. I was going to say thank you. Yeah, well, don't. Just take care of yourself. Take care of your mom. And if you ever come back in here looking for a shift, I'll give you one. But don't come back in here with company, all right? All right? Go on, kid. He hung up. Lila stood in her kitchen for about a minute with the phone in her hand, and she thought about how the smallest conversations could be the ones that closed a door. And she thought about the 3 years of grease smell and dying fluorescence, and 2 in the morning drunks and Marv's bad temper. And she thought that she had been ready to leave the Blue Star for a long time, and she had not realized it until a man with a green-stoned ring had given her a reason. She picked up her duffel bag. She locked the apartment door. She went downstairs and threw the bag on the passenger seat of the Civic and pulled away from the curb, and when she looked in her mirror, she saw the black SUV pull out from behind a delivery van 3 cars back and fall into place behind her, and she understood that this, too, was what she had agreed to. The house was in the country, an hour and 20 minutes north and east of the hospital. The address Marco had texted her was on a road she didn't recognize, and the road was off a smaller road, and the smaller road was off a 2-lane that ran between 2 towns she had never had a reason to drive through. For the last 12 miles, there were no houses, just fences. Stone walls, some of them, very old, and then newer fences, iron, very tall, and then a fence that was not pretending to be anything other than what it was. A fence designed to keep people out, with a line of small black cameras along the top of it, spaced at exact intervals, all of them turned outward toward the road. The gate was open when she arrived. A man in a dark jacket was standing beside it, and he did not wave her in so much as acknowledge, with a single tilt of his head, that he had been expecting her. She drove through. The SUV followed her and the gate closed behind them both. The driveway was long. It curved. Through the trees she caught the house in pieces. A stretch of stone wall, a slate roofline, a second-floor window. And then the drive opened up and she came around the last curve, and she slowed the Civic almost without meaning to, because what was sitting at the top of the drive was not a house the way the word house had ever applied in her life. It was 3 stories of pale stone with dark green shutters and a portico over the front entrance supported by 4 columns, and a wing to the left with glass doors that opened onto a terrace, and a wing to the right with a roof that pitched differently because it was older than the rest of the building. And she understood without being told that this had been a real thing once, a farmhouse or a small manor, and that someone with a lot of money had bought it a long time ago and spent a long time since making it look the way it was supposed to have always looked. There was a fountain in the circle in front of the portico. It was running. Adriano was standing at the top of the steps. He was not wearing the coat. He was in a dark sweater and gray slacks, and he had his hands loose at his sides. And he watched her drive up with an expression she could not immediately read. And for a flicker of a second she saw him again the way she had seen him at the end of the hospital corridor, as a man waiting for a door to open that he was not sure he had any right to be on the other side of. She parked the Civic beside a black Mercedes that was worth probably 30 times what the Civic was worth. She got out. She got her duffel out of the passenger side. Adriano came down the steps. Let me. I've got it. Lila. I've got it. He stopped 2 steps up and held his hands out in a small surrender. All right. She climbed the stairs with the duffel over her shoulder. At the top, there was a woman in her 50s in a navy cardigan and sensible shoes waiting by the open door, and Adriano made a small gesture toward her. This is Signora Renata. She runs this house. Whatever you need while you are here, you ask her. If she tells you a thing cannot be done, it cannot be done. If I tell you a thing cannot be done, and she tells you it can be done, believe her. Renata smiled. It was a small, warm, professional smile, and Lila got the sense immediately that this was a woman who had been running houses for powerful men for long enough that almost nothing surprised her anymore. Miss Lila, welcome. Your room is upstairs. May I take your bag? Please. It is what I do. Lila let her take the bag. The entry hall was stone-floored. There was a staircase that curved up to the second floor, and a long table under a mirror and a vase on the table with fresh flowers in it. And Lila did not know anything about flowers except that these had not been there longer than a few hours, because her mother had always had a thing for fresh flowers and had taught her how to tell. You've been here how long? She said to Adriano as Renata disappeared up the stairs with the duffel. This house? I bought it 9 years ago. I am here when I am in this country, which is perhaps a third of the year, and the rest of the time. Italy, Switzerland sometimes, a house in Montenegro that I do not particularly like. Okay, he turned to her. Are you hungry? No. Tired? Yes. There will be food at 1. I will let you sleep until then. Renata will come and get you. After lunch, I would like to show you the property, if you would let me. After that, your time is your own. There is a library. There is a pool, which is not yet closed for the season. There is a horse in the stable, which is old, which does not like to be ridden, which likes apples. You're not expected anywhere. No one is coming to see you today. Do you understand? Yes. Good. Go sleep. Her room was on the second floor, third door on the left, at the end of a hallway runner that was some kind of old wool. The room was, she estimated, bigger than her entire apartment. There was a 4-poster bed and a window seat and a desk under a window that looked out over the back garden, and a door to a bathroom with a tub big enough to drown in, and a second door to a small sitting room with 2 armchairs and a shelf of books in 4 languages. On the bed, Renata had laid out her duffel, unopened, beside a folded robe that was soft and gray and had not been there when she walked in. She sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress did not sink the way her mattress at home sank. It took her weight and held her evenly, like something that had been designed to do nothing else, and she sat there for a second, and then she lay down, still in her clothes, still in her shoes, and she put her face in the pillow and she cried. For her mother, for the Civic parked next to a Mercedes downstairs, for the girl with $43 in her apron 2 nights ago, for whatever she was in the process of becoming, and at some point in the crying she fell asleep, and when Renata knocked on the door at 10 to 1, Lila had been asleep for almost 3 hours, and she felt, for the first time in 11 weeks, the faintest ghost of what it felt like to be rested. Lunch was on the terrace. It was Adriano and Marco and her, and a 4th chair set at the foot of the table that Marco gestured toward as she sat down. Dante will call in, he said. He wants to meet you. My father told him no for today. He is on a video, on the tablet, if that's okay. Now? In a minute. Does he know? He knows. Does he know that? He knows everything, Lila. He has been asking questions since 8 a.m. his time. He's a pain in the ass. A tablet was sitting on the table propped up on a small stand. Marco woke it. A moment later it rang, and then a young man's face filled the screen. Lila's age, maybe a year or 2 younger, dark-haired, bright-eyed, with a dazed stubble and the kind of hopeful, badly concealed energy of a kid who had been told to behave himself. Lila. Dante? Lila. It's good to meet you. I have been... He put a hand over his eyes, theatrically. This is very weird, yes? Yes. Bene. I am glad it is weird for you, too. I was afraid you would be calm. If you were calm, I was going to be annoyed at you. I have been not calm all day. She laughed. She did not mean to. It caught her off guard and came up out of her, a surprised little bark of a laugh. And across the table, Adriano looked up from his plate, and his face did something she hadn't seen it do yet. A small, involuntary softening at the corners of the mouth, there and gone. "I'm not calm either," she said. "Good. Okay. So, I have many questions. Marco says I should save them. I will save them, but I will say 2 things, and then I will leave you alone to your lunch because Papa is giving me a look. 2 things. 1. My mother is not your mother. My mother is... She is a different woman. She passed 2 years ago. I say this so you are not confused when you see her picture in the hall. She was a good woman. She did not know about your mother. It is not something you have to feel guilty about. Okay. 2. When you come to Italy, and you will come to Italy, Lila, eventually, I am going to cook for you. I am the best cook in this family. Papa will tell you he is. Marco will tell you he is. They are both wrong. It is me. I will make you spaghetti alle vongole, and you will forgive me in advance for anything stupid I say. All right. Good. Okay. I am going. Papa. Marco. Ciao, sorella. The screen went dark. Marco was grinning. I told you, pain in the ass. He's nice. He's a nice pain in the ass. Adriano said something to Marco in Italian, very low. Marco rolled his eyes and got up and took the tablet and walked to the other end of the terrace to answer a call that was coming through on his phone, and it was her and Adriano at the table, and a plate of food in front of her that she had not touched. Eat, Lila. She ate. It was the best food she had ever put in her mouth. A bowl of something that was soup, but not like any soup she had ever had, with white beans and greens and a piece of bread on top with oil, and a small plate of fish after, and a glass of white wine that she sipped once and set down, because she did not trust what a whole glass of wine would do to her on this many hours of sleep. This is good. Thank you. Renata made it. She did. She is going to be around me a lot this week. She is. Is she telling you what I do? He put his fork down. She is telling me whether you are eating. She is telling me whether you are sleeping. She is telling me if you need a thing that you have not asked for. She is not reporting on your conversations, Lila. She is not a spy. She has worked for me for a long time. Her job is the people in this house. You are, this week, a person in this house. That is the only reason she is watching you. Okay. If it bothers you, I will tell her to stop. It doesn't bother me. I just wanted to know. Good. They ate in silence for a minute. Adriano. Yes. What do you do? He set down the fork again. I was wondering when you were going to ask. I've been wondering since the diner. Yes. My mother said you stole from her. That she stole from you, that you had money. That you were, she said some of it was businesses and some of it was not businesses. That is accurate. What is the businesses part? Shipping, construction, hotels, wineries, a private security firm in Milan, a bank in Luxembourg that is small and very old and owns pieces of other things. These are the parts of my business you can read about in public records, and most of them, on paper, are in the name of one cousin or another. And the part that isn't businesses. He looked at her for a long moment. Lila, I am going to tell you the truth about this, because you are going to learn it this week one way or another, and I would rather you learn it from me than from a man at a dinner making a joke he thinks is funny. But I want to ask you something first. What? Do you want to know everything today at this lunch? Or do you want to know it in pieces as it comes up, as you meet the people who are involved in it? Now. You are sure? Now. All right. He picked up his wine. He did not drink it. He set it down. There are families in my country who have been doing certain kinds of business with each other for 150 years. The business is older than that. The names change. The business does not. I was born into one of those families. My father was a man who ran a part of that business that touched many countries, including this one. When he died, I took what he had. I have spent 26 years making it larger. The things we do that are legal pay for themselves and make a great deal of money. The things we do that are not legal do not pay for themselves. They pay for other things: protection, information, influence. The ability to move a person across a border when a government does not want them to move. The ability to make a debt go away, or a witness, or, on occasion, a person. I do not do those things myself anymore. I have not, in many years. But I give the orders. Do you understand what I'm telling you? She had stopped eating. You kill people. I have given the order for people to be killed, yes. Men who had made certain decisions about my family, men who had betrayed agreements that were older than I am. I have not, in my life, ever given the order for an innocent person to be killed. I want you to understand that. It is a distinction that matters to me, even if it does not matter to you. But I have ordered the deaths of men, Lila. Your mother knew that when she left me. It is part of what she was leaving. She put her fork down. Are you telling me this because you think I should know, or because you think saying it will make me less afraid of you? He looked at her. I am telling you, he said, because you asked, and because you are not going to survive this week if you do not know it, and because the first lie I tell you is the last time you will believe anything I say, and I am not going to start our relationship with that. That is all. Okay? Do you want to stop? Stop what? This. The week. Any of it. If what I just said is too much, Lila, I will have Luca drive you back to the hospital tonight. The decision is yours. I promised you that. I am keeping the promise. She sat for a while. She looked at her plate. She looked at the terrace railing and the garden beyond it and the stone wall at the edge of the garden that marked the beginning of a property she now understood in a slightly different way, as something that had been paid for with money, that had somewhere in its history been stained by the kind of thing they had just talked about. She thought about her mother. Her mother had said, listen to him, meet the people, let him show you the house, eat his food, drink his wine, do not fight him for the sake of fighting him. Her mother had also said, do not mistake kindness for safety. And her mother had known, when she said those things, exactly what Adriano had just told her. She had known it for 25 years. She had taken the money anyway. She had taken the money last night from this man whose hands had ordered the deaths of other men, because she wanted to see her daughter turn 25. If her mother could sit with that, Lila could sit at this table. I'm not leaving, she said. All right. But I want to ask you one more thing. Ask. The night at the diner, you said you were there to meet a man about something that didn't concern me. Who was the man? What was the meeting? Adriano picked up his wine and drank from it this time. He put the glass back down. A man named Teodoro Barrese. He was a person I have known for a long time, who had recently made a decision I did not agree with. I was going to speak with him. I chose the diner because it was neutral ground, because he was afraid of a specific location I had suggested first, and because the owner of the diner is a man who once did a small job for me many years ago, and who has kept his mouth shut about it ever since. Marv. Yes. Marv did a job for you. 22 years ago. He did not kill anyone. He drove a car. He was paid well, and he was told never to speak of it, and he has never spoken of it. He did not know why I was coming to his diner that night. He only knew that I was. When he saw me, he remembered who I was. That is why he went in the back. Did your meeting happen? No. Because of me? Yes. When I saw my ring on your hand in the form of recognition, and then heard your name, He stopped. He looked down at his own hand, at the green stone on his finger. I sent Teodoro a message that night saying I was delayed. We have not rescheduled. He is waiting to hear from me. This is the part, Lila, that I told you last night I had other problems tonight. Teodoro is one of them. What is he going to do? Nothing, for now. He is a careful man. He will wait. He will try to understand why I did not come. He will eventually, probably, understand. Then he will decide what to do with that information. Is he dangerous? Adriano looked at her. Yes, he said. He is dangerous. That is why I was going to meet with him, and it is why the meeting did not go forward when I had something more important to attend to. I will handle Teodoro. I have handled men like Teodoro my whole life. I am telling you this because you asked, and because if something happens this week that involves him, I do not want it to surprise you, but it is not something you need to worry about today. Okay. Eat your fish, it is getting cold. She ate her fish. After lunch, he walked her through the house. He showed her the library, which had a ladder on a rail like in the movies, and the sitting room with the old piano that Dante played badly and loudly when he visited, and the wine cellar that she peered down into from the doorway but did not enter. He showed her the kitchen, where Renata was teaching a young woman named Sophia how to make a sauce, and Sophia looked up and nodded at Lila in a way that suggested she had been told, very specifically, not to stare. He showed her the stable, where a chestnut mare named Peppa came to the rail and nosed at his sweater, and he fed her an apple he pulled from his pocket, as if he had planned the moment. And when Lila reached out to touch the horse's neck, it was the first thing in the house she had touched all day that she did not feel strange touching. You ride? No, I've never ridden a horse. Would you like to? Maybe later this week. All right. At the back of the property, past the garden, there was a small chapel, a stone building about the size of a garage, with a slate roof and a heavy wooden door. This is closed, he said when she looked at it. Why? Because I do not open it. Okay. He did not elaborate and she did not push. They walked back toward the house. Lila. What? Tomorrow morning a man is coming to the house. His name is Bruno. He is my second, I suppose, is the simplest way to say it. He has been with me for 20 years. He runs the day-to-day of most of what we have discussed. He is not coming to meet you. He is coming to discuss Teodoro. But he will be here for most of the afternoon, and he will see you, and he will be told who you are. Okay? He is not a warm man. He will be polite. He will also be evaluating you, not cruelly. Just, he has been my second for 20 years. He has never been told in 20 years that I have a daughter. He's going to have opinions. He will not share them with you. He will share them, eventually, with me. I'm telling you this so that when you see him, you understand why he is looking at you the way he is looking at you. All right? You do not have to speak to him. All right? But if you choose to speak to him, Lila, speak to him the way you spoke to me last night at the hospital, when you told me the conditions of the week. Not softer than that. Do you understand? Yes. Good. They walked back to the house in silence. At the portico, he stopped. One more thing, he said. Your mother called me an hour ago. Lila's head came up. She called you. She did. Why? She wanted to ask me a question. What question? He hesitated for a second. It was the first time she had seen him hesitate about anything. She asked me, he said, if I intended at any point in this week to tell you about your brother. I met my brothers? Your other brother. Lila stared at him. What? Lila, what other brother? What are you? Your mother's son, not mine. He was born 4 years after you. She has not told you about him. She was going to tell you herself eventually when she felt she could. She called to ask whether I already knew, and whether, if I did, I had planned to use it. Lila could not move. She had another child. Yes. And you knew. I learned 6 weeks ago, when I learned where she was. There is a boy, 20 years old, a student at a college in Pennsylvania. His name is Noah. She gave him up to a family friend to raise when he was 2. He does not know she is his mother. He thinks the woman who raised him is his aunt. Why? Because, Adriano said very carefully, she was afraid I would find her, and she did not want to lose another child to this world. And because I think, and this is a thing I am guessing at, Lila, and your mother would tell you if you asked, because she was 28 years old and very tired and very alone, and she thought that boy deserved a mother who was not looking over her shoulder. Lila sat down on the step. She sat down the way a person sits down when their legs stop working. Not a decision, just gravity. The stone was cold through her jeans. The sun was getting lower. Somewhere across the garden, Peppa the horse whickered at nothing. She had another kid. Yes. And she gave him away. Yes. And she never told me. No. And you've known for 6 weeks. Yes. And you were going to tell me. I was going to tell you at the end of the week. I was not going to lie to you about it. I was going to tell you at the end of the week because she asked me, when I saw her last night, to give her until then to tell you herself. I was keeping that promise. Until she called me an hour ago and told me she was not sure she had the strength to tell you, and she gave me permission to do it If I thought the moment came. Lila put her face in her hands. She's my mother. Yes, she has a son. I have a brother. And nobody told me. I know. I have spent 24 years being an only child. I have spent 24 years being the thing my mother, her voice cracked. I have spent 24 years taking care of her, and there's a whole person. Lila. She looked up. Her face was wet. I understand, Adriano said. He was crouched down in front of her, the way a man crouches to speak to a child, and his face was not a wall anymore. It was the face of a man who was looking at his daughter and trying badly to find the thing to say. I understand. This is too much. It is all too much. This was always going to be too much. I want to go see her. I'll take you now. I want to go see her right now. Luca is already bringing the car around. She looked at him. You knew I'd want to go. I knew, he said, that if I told you this, you would not want to be in this house another hour. I have asked Renata to pack an overnight bag for you. You will spend tonight at the hospital. Tomorrow we will see. The week is still a week. It is going to start a different way than I thought. She stood up. She wiped her face. She looked at him. At the man who had destroyed her mother's life, who had saved her mother's life, who had sat in front of her at a diner 24 hours ago and had now crouched in the dust of his own driveway to tell her about a brother she had not known existed, and she did not know what she felt. It was not love. It was not hate. It was something more complicated than either, something she did not yet have a name for, and she knew with a cold certainty that she did not want to have, that she was going to spend a long time learning the name of it. Tell Luca to hurry, she said. I already did. Luca drove faster on the way back than he had driven on the way out, and he did not say a word the whole ride, and Lila was grateful for both of those things because she did not have anything to say, and she did not know what she would have done if he'd made her fill the silence. She went through the hospital lobby without stopping at the desk. She took the stairs instead of the elevator because she couldn't stand still. On the 4th floor, she walked past the nursing station without looking up, and she did not slow down until she was at the door of room 412, and then she stopped, because her hand was on the handle and she did not suddenly know what to say. She pushed the door open anyway. Her mother was awake. She had been crying. She saw Lila's face and she closed her eyes, and 2 more tears went down her cheeks at the angle they go down a face that is lying mostly flat, and she did not try to wipe them away. He told you. He told me. I asked him to. I know. Come here, baby, please. Lila stood in the doorway for a second longer. Then she came in. She did not sit on the bed. She sat in the chair next to the bed and she put her hands between her knees and she looked at the floor. Mom. Yeah. I don't know how to talk to you right now. Okay. I don't know what to ask first. I don't know if I'm angry. I can't tell what I'm feeling. I'm sitting here and I feel like there's a wall between us, and I don't know how it got there, and I don't know how to get around it, and I'm scared that if we don't talk about this right now, I'm going to go home tonight, and I'm going to wake up tomorrow, and I'm going to not know how to look at you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes. Then help me, Mom. Please. Catherine opened her eyes. She looked at the ceiling for a while. His name is Noah, she said. He is 20 years old. He is a sophomore at Dickinson College in Pennsylvania. He is majoring in environmental science, of all things. He has brown hair that goes red in the summer. He has a scar on his chin from when he was 6 and he fell off a bike. He has a girlfriend named Maddie, who I've never met, but I've seen a photograph. He thinks my sister Elaine is his mother. Elaine is not my sister. Elaine was my roommate in community college in 1997. She could not have children. She loved me, and I loved her. And when I could not keep him, when I decided I could not keep him, she said yes before I finished asking the question. She has been his mother his whole life. She has been a better mother than I was capable of being at that time. Why did you decide you couldn't keep him? Because I was falling apart, baby. Mom, but let me finish. Please. Let me say it once. Catherine closed her eyes again. You were 4 years old. We were living in a rented room over a dry cleaner in Erie. I had gotten pregnant the spring before by a man I had known for 11 weeks. He was a decent man. He was a carpenter. He was not the kind of man who was going to leave me, And that was the problem. Because the minute I got pregnant, I understood that if I stayed with him, there was going to be a house and a mailbox and a name on the mailbox and a small routine life in one place that a man with long arms could reach. I could not have that, Lila. Not then. I was 28. It had been 4 years. I was still sleeping with my hand on a knife under the pillow. I was still driving past the turnoff to our apartment twice to make sure nobody was behind me. I was not a whole person. I was the pieces of a person who was trying to raise another person, and doing a passable job of it only because I loved you too much to fail. Okay. I told the carpenter I couldn't do it. I told him I had a past I was not going to tell him about. I told him that if he loved me, he would let me go, and that if he didn't love me, he would let me go anyway. He did a thing that I did not deserve. He let me go. He asked me once if the baby was his. I told him no. It was the only time I ever lied about you boys to anyone who mattered. He got married to a nice woman 3 years later. He has 3 children now. I looked him up once. He looks happy. You gave up a son who was his. I gave up a son I could not keep alive. Lila flinched. I don't mean that literally, baby. I mean, I could not keep another child safe. I could not. You were 4, and I was exhausted, and I was afraid every time you got sick, every time you got a cold, because I thought I could not take another child to a pediatrician and answer the intake form truthfully. I was not sleeping. I had lost 20 pounds. I had no family that was real, because mine was not my family anymore. I called Elaine in the middle of the night when Noah was 9 days old, and I said, Elaine, I am going to hurt him, not on purpose, but I'm going to, because I'm not all the way here. And she got in a car in Pittsburgh, and she drove 4 hours, and she was at my door by sunrise. And she took him home with her, and I signed papers a month later, and she and her husband raised him. They told him, from the time he could understand, that his birth mother was a cousin who had died young. They did not use my name. They kept my name out of it because I asked them to. They have been, Layla. They have been the family I could not be. They have been good to him. I get a letter from Elaine twice a year. I got one 3 weeks ago. He made the dean's list. He is happy. That is the thing I have held on to for 20 years. He is happy, and he did not grow up with a mother who was unraveling in front of him. You never told me. No. You never once in my whole life told me I had a brother. No. Mom, I know, baby. I know. I'm 24 years old. I know. When were you going to tell me? Catherine was quiet for a long time. When I knew I was dying, she said. When I was sure. I had a list of things in my head I wanted to tell you, baby. About him. About your father. About the money. About everything. I had it in my head that when the doctor used the word terminal, I would sit you down and I would tell you everything at once, and you would have time to be angry at me while I was still alive to be angry at. That was the plan. That was the bargain I had made with myself. I was going to give you the truth when I knew I could not take it back. And then a man walked into a diner 2 nights ago, and he took the bargain away from me before I was ready. Leela looked up at her. Are you dying, Mom? I don't know, baby. Dr. Hassan said, I know what Eileen said, 70%. 70% is a good number. 70% is also a 30%, and I am trying, in this bed, not to lie to myself about what 30% looks like. I don't know if I am dying. I know that I am tired, and I know that I have been tired for a very long time, and I know that if this treatment does not work, I am not going to fight a second one. I have fought enough things in my life. I would like, if it comes to it, to lose one gracefully. Don't say that. Baby, don't say that to me. Don't. She sat for a while. Her mother did not reach for her hand this time. Her mother let her sit. I want to meet him, Lila said. I know. I want to meet him before anything else happens. Before I go back to that house, before any of this, I want to look my brother in the face, Mom. I know you do, baby. Will you let me? Catherine was quiet for a long moment. Elaine doesn't know about your father, she said. She knows there was a man. She does not know what he is. She does not know he is looking for me. If you go, Lila, and you find that boy, and you bring my life into his, You need to understand what you are bringing. Your father is not going to hurt him. I believe that. I believe that your father has his own rules about that. But the people around your father, the people who watch him, they will see Noah. They will know he is my son. And whatever decision you make for yourself this week about that world, you need to understand that he will be on that map now. He will be findable. He will be a name on a list in someone's head. Do you understand? I can go without. Nobody has to know. Lila, your father has known about that boy for 6 weeks. Bruno has known for 3. Every person who matters in that world already knows Noah's name. That part I have accepted. I accepted it the night your father told me he knew. What I am telling you is that you walking into his life, you, Adriano Vescari's daughter, that is a different weight than him being a name on a list. You walking into his life means that boy has a sister who belongs to a world he has never heard of. That is a thing you can do. I am not telling you you can't. I am asking you to know what you are doing before you do it. Okay. Do not go this week, baby. Lila looked up. Mom, do not go this week. Finish the week with your father. Let the week be the week. See what you see. Decide what you decide. And when you have decided, when you know what you are and what you are not on the other side of this week, then you go meet your brother. Go as whoever you have become by then, not as the person you are right now, because right now, Lila, right now, you are not yourself. You are a girl who has not slept and has not eaten and has been told too much in 48 hours. And if you meet that boy today, you're going to put all of this on him before you know what any of it is. Do you understand what I am asking you? Yes. I am not asking you to forgive me. I am asking you to wait 6 more days before you go knock on that boy's door. Lila sat there with her hands between her knees, and she thought about it. The thing she wanted to do was get in her Civic and drive to Pennsylvania. She could be there by sunrise. She could walk into some college dining hall with a brother's photograph on her phone, and she could find him, and she could sit down across from him, and she could say, "What? Hi, I'm your sister. I didn't know you existed until 4 hours ago. Our mother is dying, and also my father is a man who..." She looked at her mother. Her mother looked very small in the bed, small and used up and so tired, and Lila understood, not in a flash but in a slow shifting weight, that her mother had been carrying the entire architecture of all of this for 24 years, and had put it down in the last 48 hours, one brick at a time, and was going to be different now for the rest of whatever time she had, and that Lila was not the only person in this room whose life had just come apart. 6 days, Lila said. 6 days, baby. Then you help me. When I go, you help me figure out how to do it. I will. And you call Elaine. Catherine's eyes went wet again. I'll call her. You call her first, before I go. You tell her what's happening. You tell her I'm coming. You do not make me knock on her door cold. You owe her that. You owe him that. Yes, baby. Okay. Her mother reached for her hand then, and Lila let her take it. They sat for a while. Somewhere down the hall, a phone was ringing and nobody was answering it. Somewhere outside the window, a siren rose and faded. Somewhere, 4 hours away, in a dining hall at a college in Pennsylvania, a 20-year-old boy named Noah was probably sitting with a plate of pasta in front of him, arguing about something with a girl named Maddie, and he did not know anything yet about any of this. And Lila thought, let him have tonight. She stayed at the hospital. She slept in the vinyl chair again. In the morning, Luca was waiting at the front entrance at 9, and she kissed her mother on the forehead and told her she'd call at 2 and at 8, and she went back out to the car. Miss? Yeah. Your father asks if you want to drive yourself. Is the Civic here? It is at the house. Then no. He opened the back door. She slept most of the drive. The country out the window went from highway to smaller roads to the single road with no houses on it, and then to the fence. And when the Civic was back in sight in the circular drive, sitting there next to the Mercedes like a joke, she felt something odd and small in her chest. A ridiculous relief at seeing her own bad car parked where she'd left it. Adriano was not on the steps this time. Renata was. Miss Lila, your father is in a meeting. He will be finished in perhaps 40 minutes. He asked if you would like breakfast in the dining room or in your sitting room. Sitting room, please. Of course. Renata. Yes. Is the man he's meeting with, is that Bruno? Yes, miss. Okay. Breakfast in 10 minutes. She went up to her room. She showered. The water was the kind of water that only exists in houses where somebody has spent actual money on the plumbing, pressure that pinned you to the tile, hot the second you turned the handle, and she stood under it for 15 minutes and let it wash off the hospital smell. And she thought about her mother's face when she'd said, "I am going to hurt him, not on purpose." And she thought about Elaine, the woman she had never met, who had driven 4 hours in the dark to take a 9-day-old baby out of the arms of a friend who was unraveling. She got dressed, jeans, a clean shirt. She brushed her hair. She ate the breakfast Renata brought up, which was a plate of eggs and tomatoes and a small dish of something she didn't recognize that turned out to be very good, and a pot of coffee and a bowl of yogurt with honey, and by the time she was done eating, she felt something she had not felt in a long time. The specific steadying that comes from a good meal when your body has been running on vending machines for 2 days. She was coming down the main staircase when she heard the voices. 2 men, low, in one of the rooms off the entry hall. The door was ajar. The door had been closed, she was sure, when she'd gone up. Somebody had come out, or gone in the last 10 minutes, and had not quite pulled it shut behind them. She did not mean to stop, she stopped. The voice that wasn't Adriano's was a voice she had not heard yet, lower than Adriano's, rougher, with a different kind of accent, and it was saying something fast in Italian, and Adriano was answering shorter and harder, and the name that kept coming up in the Italian was the one name she recognized, Teodoro. And then, in English, very clearly, Bruno's voice. "She is 24, Adriano. She is an American girl who has worked in a diner. She is going to be on the front page of every newspaper Teodoro reads by Friday. You cannot keep her here. This house is not a fortress. It was never a fortress. You know this." A silence. "Say it in English for the rest of this," Adriano said. "I want to be sure we understand each other." "All right." Bruno's voice came closer to the door. Lila pressed herself back against the wall at the foot of the stairs. "You have brought an unknown into this house in the middle of an open disagreement with Teodoro Baresi, and I am telling you, as the man whose job it is to tell you, that this is the single worst time in 8 years for you to have done this. Teodoro does not yet know she exists. By Friday, he will. You did not reschedule the meeting, you did not give him an answer, you sent Luca to the hospital, and you paid a bill, and you checked her into a private lab, and 3 people know about it who owe you favors, but none of those favors are infinite. By Friday, maybe Saturday, Teodoro is going to know you have a daughter. And the first thing Teodoro is going to do, Adriano, the very first thing, I know what he is going to do. Then tell me why she is in this house. Because she is my daughter, Bruno. She was your daughter a week ago also, and you did not know it, and she was fine. She was in that diner, waiting tables. Nobody knew. Nobody cared. You could have paid Catherine's hospital bill through a lawyer, through a grant, through a shell. The girl would never have known. Catherine would have lived or died on the treatment, and your daughter would have gone on being a waitress. And Teodoro would never have had a card to play against you. You made a choice, in that diner, when the girl spoke, to take her out of the life she was in. And now I am telling you that the life you have taken her into has people in it who will use her against you within the week. You cannot have both things, Adriano. You cannot have this daughter and this war at the same time. You have to choose. Another silence. I am not going to send her home, Bruno. Then end the war this week. You know what that means. I know what that means. You know what that means. I am telling you to do it, because if you do not do it, Teodoro is going to try to get to her. He will not hurt her. He is not that stupid, not yet. But he will try to take her, or he will try to reach her, or he will try to reach her mother in that hospital. And you and I both know Overlake Regional is not a place I can make safe. A hospital is not a place I can make safe. And if any of that happens, if any of it, Adriano, even the smallest version of it, you are going to spend the next 20 years not sleeping, and I am going to spend the next 20 years cleaning up the results of you not sleeping. I am asking you, with respect, with love, with 20 years of loyalty, to end this with Teodoro this week. He is a friend. He was a friend. He made a decision. He chose a side. He chose wrong. You have known this for 6 months, Adriano, and you have not dealt with it because he is a friend. He is not a friend anymore. He has not been a friend since the moment he took the meeting with the Calderas in March. You know this. I am not telling you something you don't know. I know. Then let me go to him. Let me go to him this week. I will not make you do it. I will take it. It is what you pay me for. Bruno, it is what you pay me for, Adriano. Let me do my job. Let your daughter be your daughter. Let me do the rest. A long silence. Lila was holding her breath. She understood with a sickening clarity that she was standing against a wall listening to two men discuss, in a civilized tone, the killing of a third man, and that the reason they were discussing it was her. No, Adriano said. Not you. Adriano. Not you. Me. In person. That is not me. Bruno. He was my friend for 30 years. If I am going to do this thing, I am going to do it with my own hand. I owe him that much. You will set it up. You will pick the place. You will pick the men. But I will be the one who sits across from him. Do you understand me? A long, slow breath. I understand. Set it for Thursday. 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 The girl will be here. With Renata, with Marco. She will not know what I am doing that day. She will know afterward, eventually. I'm not going to lie to her about it, but I'm not going to make her a part of it either. Not this one. Not the first one she sees. All right? Bruno? Yes. She does not hear about any of this from anyone but me. Not from you, not from Marco, not from Luca, not from the staff. If she asks you a question, you tell her she needs to ask me. Understood? Understood. Go. Lila heard a chair scrape. She did not have time to move. The door opened, and a man she had not seen before walked out into the entry hall and stopped when he saw her at the foot of the stairs. He was 50, maybe 55. Shorter than Adriano, built thick, a shaved head going gray at the edges, a wide, plain, hard face with eyes that did not perform anything. He was wearing a dark jacket over a black shirt, no tie, and his hands were at his sides in a way that was not casual. He looked at her. She looked at him. She did not pretend she hadn't heard. You're Bruno. I am. I'm Lila. I know. How much of it did I hear? Most of it, I would say, from where you are standing. Okay. He looked at her for a long, assessing second, not unkindly, not kindly either, just the way a man looks at a road he is trying to decide whether he can drive on. Miss Lila? Yes. Your father will explain what he wants to explain. I do not discuss my work with his family. I would ask you not to mention to him that you heard me, because it will make my life more complicated, and my life is complicated enough already. Is that acceptable? I'm going to tell him. Yes. I thought you would. He said I was going to. He knows you. He's known me for 2 days. 2 days is sometimes enough. He walked past her toward the front door. His shoulder brushed hers, not on purpose, just because the hall was not quite wide enough for him to pass without it, and she stepped back. Bruno. He turned. Did you mean it? What you said? That he should let you go instead of him? He looked at her for a long moment. Yes. Why? Because he is 61 years old and his hands shake in the morning, and he has not done that kind of work himself in 9 years, and the man he is going to meet with on Thursday is 48 and good with a knife and does not know yet that he is going to die. And because I am very good at what I do, miss, and I love your father, and I would prefer that he not be in a room with a man who is that well armed and that unaware. You love him. Yes. You said that out loud. I did. Does he know? Bruno almost smiled. It was the smallest adjustment of the mouth she had ever seen a face make. He knows. Thursday. Is he going to... Miss Lila. What? Please ask him. He put on his coat. He opened the front door. He went out. The door closed behind him with the soft, heavy click of a door that has a lot of wood in it. Lila stood at the foot of the stairs. Her hands were shaking. Her stomach had gone cold. She thought about turning around and going back up to the room and pretending she had not come down at all, pretending she had slept through the meeting, pretending she did not know what Thursday was. She walked to the door of the room instead, and she pushed it open. Adriano was sitting in a leather chair by the window. There was a small espresso cup on the table beside him, half full. He was looking at the garden. You heard? Yes. He did not turn around. Sit down, Lila. She sat. There was a second chair across from his. The room was a study. She understood now. The walls were books. There was a desk at the far end. There was a globe on a stand that was actually an antique and not a prop. Thursday. Thursday. You're going to kill a man on Thursday. Yes. With your own hand. Yes. Why? He turned then. He looked at her. You want the answer I gave Bruno, or you want the answer I have not said out loud? The second one. He rubbed the bridge of his nose. He looked suddenly enormously tired, more tired than she had seen him at the hospital, more tired than she had seen him at dinner. And for the first time, Lila thought about the fact that this man was 61 years old and that his hands, apparently, shook in the morning. Teodoro Barres, he said, was at my wedding to your mother. He was the best man. He was at my wedding to Marco's mother, 15 years later. He was the godfather of both my sons, on paper, for what the word is worth with us. He was the man I called in 1999, the night I realized your mother had left me. He was the man who sat up with me in a kitchen in Naples for 3 days and did not let me drink myself to death. He was, for 30 years, the person I trusted more than my own brother, who is dead, who has been dead for a long time, but that is a different story. Okay. 6 months ago, he took a meeting in Sicily with a family I have been at war with quietly for 12 years. He took that meeting without telling me. He took it, as far as I can tell, for reasons that are not about money. He took it because he is tired, and because he thinks I am wrong about this war, and because he thinks the next generation of this family, his sons, my sons, should not have to inherit it. And those are not bad reasons, Lila. Those are the reasons of a good man who has become afraid. But in my world, a man who takes a meeting like that without telling me has told me something, whether he meant to or not. He has told me that the decisions of this family are no longer something he waits to hear from me before he makes. And a man who believes it long enough to act on it, is a man who is going to, eventually and without meaning to, get someone killed who did not need to die. So you kill him first. So I do the thing, Lila, that I have spent my whole life learning how to do, and I do it with my own hand because Teodoro is owed that, and because I do not want him to die thinking that I was too much of a coward to look at him while it happened. That's sick. Yes, that's a sick thing to say. Yes. You just said out loud that you're going to murder your best friend on Thursday, and you said it like what, Lila? Like it was a thing you have to do. It is a thing I have to do. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. You could let him go. You could let him retire. You could... Lila. What? In my world, he said, very quietly, a man who is no longer loyal does not retire. He is shifted. He becomes someone else's man. He becomes a man who, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, at a dinner, at a funeral, in the back of a car, sells a piece of information that gets a person killed. It is not a thing I can prevent by being kind. It is not a thing Teodoro himself can prevent by being honorable, because Teodoro, when he believes in a thing, believes in it all the way, and right now he believes that what I am doing is wrong. If I leave him alive, one of two things will happen. Either I will live out my life wondering which day he is going to pick to move against me, which is a thing I can survive perhaps, but which will change the kind of father I am to you, and which will change the kind of father I have been to your brothers, because a man who does not sleep is not a good father, or he will move against me, and he will do it through you, not because he wants to, because he will see correctly that you are the only piece of me that has ever made me stop. And I will not, Lila, I will not let my daughter be a piece on a board, because a friend of mine has decided at 58 that he knows better than I do how to run my family. She stared at him. You're telling me you're killing him to protect me. I'm telling you I am killing him for a list of reasons, and you are on the list. Don't. Don't what? Don't put me on that list. I didn't ask to be on that list. I don't want to be on that list, Adriano. I know. Then take me off it. I can't. Why? Because you are on it whether you want to be or not, Lila. You have been on it since the moment you stood up from that booth in the diner and walked out with me. That was the trade. I owe you, now, the protection that comes with that trade. I'm not asking you to be grateful for it. I'm not asking you to like it. I'm telling you what it is. She sat back in the chair. She felt very small. My mother said you would do this. Do what? She said you would offer me things in ways that didn't look like offers. She said you would make me feel like a piece of a world I hadn't agreed to be in. She said, she was correct. She was correct? Your mother is correct about most things, Lila. You have had the good fortune your whole life of having a mother who was correct about most things. Take the advantage of it while you still can. Don't use her against me. I'm not. I am telling you that she is right. I am telling you she was right to leave. I am telling you she was right to hide you. I am telling you she is right about what I am, and I am telling you that you have to decide what to do with that information. I am not trying to make the decision easier for you. I am not going to lie to you to make it easier. Thursday is tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow, you're going to meet with a man who has been your friend for 30 years, and you are going to, yes. And what am I supposed to do? You are supposed to stay in this house. You are supposed to eat the breakfast Renata brings you. You are supposed to call your mother at 2 and at 8 like you told her you would. You're supposed to go to the stable and feed Peppa an apple. You're supposed to, in the afternoon, come back to this study and sit in this chair and tell me everything you remember about your brother. Everything your mother has told you, today, in the last 24 hours. I would like to know about him. I have known his name for 6 weeks. I do not know anything else. I would like my daughter to tell me about her brother. That is what you are supposed to do tomorrow, Lila. That is all. And then you come home. And then I come home. And it will be done. And it will be done. And we never talk about it. We can talk about it whenever you want, for as long as you want. You can ask me anything you want, any day of your life, and I will answer. That is a promise I can keep. I cannot promise you that it will not happen. That decision is made. I can promise you that I will not ever lie to you about what I have done. She looked at him. He looked back. She thought, in that moment, about the girl she had been 3 nights ago in the employee bathroom of the Blue Star Diner, doing math on a calculator in her apron. That girl had not known that any of this existed. That girl would have heard this conversation and run out of the room screaming, would have called the police, would have done the thing a normal person would do. She was not that girl anymore. She had not been that girl since the moment she saw the ring. She didn't know yet what she was. She only knew that she was sitting in a leather chair in a study in a house in the country, looking across at a 61-year-old man with her jaw and her eyes and a ring on his finger that matched her mother's, and he had just told her he was going to kill his best friend tomorrow, and she was not running out of the room. She was, it turned out, still sitting in the chair. Adriano? Yes. Bruno said he loves you. He does. Did you know he would say that to me? I suspected he might. Bruno is not a sentimental man in general. He is sentimental in specific directions. I am one of the directions. He asked me to ask you something. What? He wouldn't say. He just said, please ask him. Adriano looked at her for a long time. Then he looked down at the espresso cup on the table and he picked it up and he drank the rest of it. He wanted you to ask me, he said, whether I was sure, whether I had thought about it enough, whether, given everything that has happened in the last 4 days, I was sure that tomorrow was the right day. He asks me that every time. He has asked me that for 20 years. He has never once said, don't do it. He has only ever asked me whether I am sure. It is his way of giving me a door, Lila, in case I want to walk through it. He is asking me, through you, whether I want to walk through it. And I am not walking through it. Why? Because if I walk through that door now, because my daughter is in my house, because I have been a father for 4 days instead of 25 years, if I let that be the reason I do not do what I know needs to be done, then Bruno was right about the only thing Bruno has ever been wrong about. I am too old for this, and I will lose everything anyway. Not this month, not this year. But I will lose it, and I will lose you with it. Because the thing you are in the middle of, Lila, is not a thing you can walk out of. It is only a thing you can hold. And I do not get to stop holding it because a piece of me would like to. Do you understand? I understand that you're telling yourself a story. Yes. You know it's a story. Yes. And you're going to do it anyway. Yes. She nodded slowly. Okay. Okay. I don't agree with you. I don't. I don't know how I'm going to feel about you tomorrow night. I don't know how I'm going to feel about you a year from now. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to sit in this room with you again without thinking about tomorrow. But I'm not going to ask you not to do it. You are not going to listen to me if I do. And I am not going to lie to you and say I tried. Thank you. I'm not doing it for you. I know. I'm doing it because my mother told me not to fight you for the sake of fighting you. And because I am not ready yet to know whether I want to fight you on this or anything else. That is a fair answer. Okay? She stood up. She walked to the door. At the door, she turned around. Adriano? Yes. Come home tomorrow. He looked at her. His face, for one exact second, did the thing it had done in the family lounge at the hospital. It flickered, the small broken instability at the corners of the mouth. A man who had not been spoken to that way in a very long time, maybe ever. I will. Good. She went upstairs. She called her mother at 2. She did not tell her about Thursday. She did not tell her about Bruno. She told her about the horse, and about the breakfast, and about the library ladder, and her mother, on the other end of the line, sounded tired, but not worse, and said, "Good, baby, that's good." And they hung up, and Lila sat on the window seat in her room and looked down at the garden for a long time. And she thought about a man named Teodoro, who was somewhere in this country right now, alive, and did not know yet that he had a day left. Thursday came the way bad days come in the country, slow, clean, and completely indifferent to what anyone in the house was about to do. Lila woke at 6 because she had not really slept. The window was open an inch and the cold was coming in, and outside the garden was going silver with frost, and somewhere at the back of the property, Peppa was making the small impatient noise a horse makes when the feed is late. She got dressed. She went downstairs. Renata was in the kitchen, already moving, and when Lila came in, Renata looked up from the stove and did not say anything for a long second, which told Lila that Renata knew. "He's already gone." "Yes, miss, he left at 4. 4 in the morning." "Yes." "Where?" "I do not know where." "You know." "I know," Renata said, and she set a cup of coffee in front of Lila at the kitchen counter, which was not where she was supposed to eat, which was her way of saying, "Sit with me." That the place is far enough that he left at 4. I know that he took Marco with him, which is unusual, and Bruno, which is not. I know that Luca stayed here, which is also unusual, and which means that your father wants you watched by someone he trusts more than anyone else in this house. I know that they took 3 cars instead of 2. I do not know the name of the road. I have worked for your father for 11 years, miss. There are things I know, and there are things I do not ask, and this is a thing I do not ask. Is he going to come back? Yes. How do you know? Because, Renata said, your father does not lose. He has not lost for a long time. And today he is your father, which is a thing he was not last week, and he will be more careful today than he has ever been. Lila drank the coffee. Renata. Yes. What time will he be back? He told me to expect him for a late lunch. That means any time between 1 and 4. Okay. I'm going to make a soup that will hold on the stove. I'm going to make bread. I'm going to make your favorite of the things you have eaten this week, which was the fish with the beans, and I am going to have it ready whenever he walks in. And I'm going to ask you, miss, to eat breakfast now, because otherwise you are going to sit here all morning not eating, and he will walk in at 1 and you will faint, and that is not how he wants to come home today. She almost laughed. Almost. It came up out of her as a small, surprised breath, and then she put her face in her hands and did not cry, because she had cried too much this week and she was tired of it. And she sat at Renata's kitchen counter and let Renata put a plate in front of her. Eggs, bread, a small slice of something cured, a half of a pear. And she ate all of it because it was easier than arguing. Marco was not there. Neither was Adriano, obviously. Luca was on the terrace with a phone pressed to his ear, speaking Italian. She could see him through the kitchen window. He did not turn when she walked past. He did not need to. She could feel, the whole morning, that wherever she was in the house, Luca knew. At 10, she went out to the stable. Peppa pushed her nose into Lila's palm, and then her chest, and then against the pocket of Lila's coat, which had an apple in it that Renata had slipped in without Lila noticing. She fed Peppa the apple. She put her forehead against the horse's long, warm cheek, and she stood there for a while, and it was the first time all morning she felt like her ribs fit around her lungs. At 11:30, her phone rang. It was her mother. Baby? Mom, I can hear something in your voice. I'm okay. Lila. I am, Mom. I'm okay. I was out at the stable. I was feeding the horse. A pause. Her mother, on the end of the line, not buying it. Something is happening today. Yes. Are you in danger? No, Mom. I'm in the house. Is he in danger? Lila closed her eyes. She was standing in the gravel path between the garden and the stable, and there was a little cold wind pushing her hair around, and her mother, 4 hours south of her, somehow knew. Yes. Silence on the line. Tell me he's coming back, her mother said. He told me he would. That isn't the same thing. I know. Is Bruno with him? Yes. Okay. Mom, then he's coming back. If Bruno is with him, he is coming back. Bruno has kept that man alive for 20 years. He's going to keep him alive today. Do you understand me? How do you... I knew Bruno, baby. A long time ago. He was 26 years old and he worked in a garage in Naples, and your father pulled him out of a fight he was losing against 3 men and put him in a car. And Bruno has not let go of that debt. Not once. Not in 30 years. I met him the next morning. He bought me flowers. He did not know the English word for flowers. He said, for you, the thing, the color, and he handed me a paper cone of them. He was the only person in that house who treated me like a person and not like a piece of furniture your father had acquired. If Bruno is with him today, he is coming back. Lila was crying, silently. She did not know when it had started. Mom. Yes, baby. I'm going to stay, past the week. I think I am. A long silence on the line. I thought you might. I don't know yet what staying means. I don't know if it's forever. I don't know if it's 6 months. I don't know what I'm... You don't have to know yet, baby. He told me what he does, Mom. All the way. He told me. And I'm still in the house. I know. How are you not angry with me right now? Her mother was quiet for a long time. Because I love you, Lila, she said, and because I understand what it is to stand inside that house, and because you are 24 years old and you have just learned that you have a father and a brother and a life. And I would be lying to you if I said I did not know, when I called him from this hospital bed to tell him he could bring you, that there was a version of this where you did not come home to me at the end of the week. I knew it. I made my peace with it, or I started to. I am still making it. I'm coming home to you. Not home, baby. You're coming to see me. You're coming to sit with me while I do this treatment, and we are going to talk, and we are going to fight, and we are going to watch bad television on the little TV in this room, and we are going to meet your brother, together, when I am strong enough to drive to Pennsylvania. That is what is going to happen, but you are not going back to that apartment, Lila, are you? No, Mom. Okay. Is that okay? Baby, it was never going to be the same apartment, not after that diner. You know that. I know. Call me when he walks in the door. I will. I love you. I love you, Mom. She hung up. She walked back to the house. The frost was off the grass. The sun had come up over the trees and was catching the stone on the east side of the building, and the house looked, in the light, softer than it had looked all week. Less like a fortress, more like a place someone had loved. Inside, the smell of bread was coming out of the kitchen. She tried to read. She couldn't. She tried to sleep. She couldn't. At 12:40, she sat down on the floor of her room with her back against the bed, and she did the thing her mother used to make her do when she was small and couldn't settle. She counted her breaths in 4s, in 2, 3, 4, out 2, 3, 4, and she closed her eyes and she let her hands rest on her knees, and she stayed like that for what she thought was maybe 5 minutes, and turned out to be 38. It was the sound of the cars that brought her back. 3 sets of tires on the gravel. The soft mechanical slam of 3 doors, the way nice doors slam, muted and heavy. She was on her feet before she had decided to stand up. She ran, down the hall, down the stairs, across the stone floor of the entry hall, and she got the front door open just as Adriano was climbing the steps, and he looked up at her, and his face did the thing she had only seen it do 2 other times, the small break at the corners of his mouth. And she did not think, She did not plan. She crossed the porch in 3 steps, and she put her arms around him hard, and she held on. And for a half second he did not know what to do with his hands, because nobody, she would later understand, had hugged him like that in 25 years. And then he put his arms around her and he held her back. He smelled like cold air and like something else. Something that might have been smoke, or might have been her imagining it. "You're okay." "I'm okay." "You're okay?" "I am okay, Lila." "Bruno." "He's okay too. He is in the 2nd car. He is fine." "Marco." "In the 3rd. Fine. All of us. Come inside." She pulled back. She looked at his face. She looked at his hands, which she could not help doing, and his hands were clean as anybody's hands. And she did not know whether that was a thing that meant anything or not. And she did not want to ask. And he saw her look, and he didn't say anything, which was the right thing not to say. "Lunch is ready," she said, because it was the only sentence she had. Good. Renata had set the table in the small dining room instead of the terrace. It was cold, the terrace, and also, Lila realized, the small room did not have windows that faced the drive. And the 4 of them sat down, Lila and Adriano and Marco and Bruno, and nobody said anything for a while except pass the bread and thank you. And they ate. Bruno's hand shook a little. Not much. Just at the very start, when he picked up his wine, and then by the 2nd sip they were steady again, and Lila caught Adriano noticing it and not commenting. Marco was pale. He ate slowly. He did not look up from his plate for the first 10 minutes, and then finally he looked up and looked at Lila and gave her the smallest nod. A nod that meant, "I'm here, I'm all right, don't ask me anything yet," and she gave him the same nod back. After the soup, Bruno set down his spoon. "Miss Lila." "Yes." "I will tell you only one thing about today, and then I will not speak of it again, if that is acceptable." "Okay. Your father did what he said he would do. He did it with his own hand. He did it in a way that was not—" Bruno paused, choosing the word. "In a way that was not cruel. The other man understood before what was happening. They spoke. Your father listened to him. They agreed on the things they could agree on. And then your father did what needed to be done. And the other man did not fight him, because the other man was a man of his word, and his word, at the end, was that he would not make this ugly. That is all I will say. That is all you need to know. It was insofar as these things can be, it was the best version of it. Do you understand?" "I understand." "Thank you." That was all of it. Bruno picked his spoon back up. Nobody said anything else about it at the table. Not that day. Not ever. Lila would, years later, understand that this was the way these things were spoken about in this family. Once, briefly, in the hour after they were done, and then folded up and put away in a drawer that did not get opened again. After lunch, Bruno left. He said goodbye to her in the hall. He kissed her once on each cheek, the way a European man kisses a niece, and he held her shoulders for a second, and he looked at her with those unperforming eyes, and he said, in his low, rough voice, "You will be good for him, miss." And he went out. Marco went upstairs to sleep. It was Adriano and her in the study. "Come here, Lila." She came. He was standing at the window looking at the garden again, and when she was next to him, he did not turn to her. He spoke to the glass. "Your mother was right. What she told you. All of it. Do not ever let me hear you doubt her on any of it. Okay? The life I have lived," he said, "is not a life I am proud of. I want to tell you that once, today out loud. I have told myself for 40 years that it was a life a man does because he was born into it, because he owed things to his father and his name and his family. And it is true that I was born into it. It is also true that I made choices at many points in it that were not required of me by anyone but myself. I killed a man today who had been my friend for 30 years, and I did it because I have built a life in which that was necessary, and I will not lie to you about it and say I did it for you. I did it because of me, because of what I am. You were one reason. You were not the reason. Do you understand?" "Yes." "Good. I did not want to carry that lie." He turned to her. "I am not going to ask you to become part of this." "What?" "I'm not going to ask you to stay. I'm not going to ask you to learn what I do. I'm not going to ask you to become my heir. I have had 4 days to think about what having a daughter means, Lila, and I have done a lot of thinking in the car today, on the way home. about what kind of father I want to try to be for whatever time I have left with you. And the kind of father I want to try to be is not a father who gives his daughter a kingdom. I have 2 sons already for this. Marco will take the legal businesses. Dante will take nothing, because Dante is not built for this, and his mother made me promise, before she died, that I would let him have a small life of good food and bad women, and I am going to keep that promise. And the rest, the part I would have given to Teodoro to run 5 years from now, when I was tired, the rest I will finish myself. And when it is finished, it will be finished. It does not need another generation. It does not need you. She stared at him. You're serious. I am serious. I have spent 40 years down, he said, being a man whose daughter never had to exist. I would like to spend the next however many years being a man who had the sense, when his daughter appeared in a diner, to not make her into a smaller copy of him. That is what I would like. Whether I succeed at it, Lila, is another matter. I am not a good man. I am going to disappoint you. I am going to try, and I am going to fail in ways that are going to hurt you. And I am telling you this now so that when I fail, you will remember that I told you. But I am not going to ask you to carry what I built. That is mine to finish. She did not know what to say. Adriano, let me finish one more thing, okay? Your mother is going to live, or she is not going to live. Dr. Hassan is very good. The protocol is very good. She has a chance. I have put every resource I have into giving her that chance, because it is the one thing I can do for her that is not too late. But whichever way it goes, Lila, she is not going to be the same woman next year that she is this year. The fight has taken something out of her that it was going to take whether I came back into her life or not. You are going to spend the next however long being the person she leans on. Your brother is going to come into that equation, eventually, and it will help. But you are going to be the center of her life, the way you have been the center of her life for 24 years. I do not want you to do that from a distance. I do not want you to do that from my house. I want you to do that from a place of your own, near her hospital, with a life of your own, and I want to see you when you want me to see you, and not more than that. Wait. What? Are you telling me to leave? He smiled. Actually smiled this time, the first real one. A tired, broken, almost young thing, and for one strange second, Lila saw what her mother must have seen 30 years ago in a garden somewhere, squinting into the sun. I am telling you, Lila Carter, that you do not live here. You live wherever you decide to live. I will buy you a house, if you let me. I will buy you an apartment. I will buy you nothing, if that is what you prefer, and you can keep the one over the laundromat. I will pay your mother's bills. I will pay her medical bills, her living bills, her rent, her food, her whatever she needs for the rest of her life. And I am not asking anything in return. That is already done. That part was done in the car to the hospital on the first night. It does not come with conditions. It has never come with conditions. Your mother earned that the moment she survived me. I am telling you that you can take the money for her or not take it. She has already agreed she will take it, and you can do whatever you want with the rest of your life. You can go to college. You can go to Pennsylvania and find your brother. You can come visit me on holidays, or you cannot. I am telling you that the only thing I am asking of you, Lila, is that you call me, sometimes. That is all. She sat down on the arm of the nearest chair. She had to. You're letting me go. I never had you, Lila. I am not letting you do anything. I'm telling you what I want for you, which is the first time I have told you what I want for you, and I want you to hear it, because you are never going to hear anything else from me as important as this. I want you to have a small life. I want you to have a life that has people in it who do not know what I do for a living. I want you to have friends who have never heard my name. I want you to, one day, fall in love with a person who does not know how to hold a gun. I want your children, if you have them, to know the word grandfather and never the word anyone in my world would use for me. That is what I want for you. Adriano. Yes. My mother said you were going to try to keep me. She said every man in your world knew she had you because she was your wife, and that it was going to be the same with me, and that your mother was right about what I would have tried. Yes. She was right about the man she left. I hope I am telling you today that the man she left has had 4 days to look at his daughter in a diner apron and reconsider his entire life. I am not that man anymore, Lila. I am not claiming I am a better man. I am claiming I am an old man, and I have looked at you, and I have thought, she deserves the thing I did not give her mother. That is all. That is the whole of it. What thing? A door that opens from the inside. She started to cry. She had cried a lot this week for a lot of different reasons, and she would cry a lot more in the months that followed. But this crying was the first crying of her adult life that came out of her without any fear in it at all. It was the release of something she had been holding since the diner. She sat on the arm of the chair, and she put her hands over her face, and she cried the way a person cries when they have been bracing for something that, at the last second, does not come. Adriano did not come over. He let her cry, which was, Lila would come to understand later, the single most generous thing he had ever done for her, because a lesser version of this man would have crossed the room to hold her, and this version understood that she needed to cry without anyone's arms around her. When she was done, she wiped her face. Okay. I need to think. Yes, I need to go see her. Luca will drive you. Tonight, if you want. Tonight. All right. She stood up. At the door she stopped, because she always stopped at doors with him now. Adriano. Yes, I want... She did not know what she wanted to say. She said it anyway. I want to meet my brother, and I want you to meet him. Not in this world, not in this house. Maybe a lunch sometime, somewhere neutral, 6 months from now, a year. Whenever my mother is strong enough to be there too. I want all of us, right? Him and me and her and you and Marco and Dante on a screen. I don't care. Around a table, once, just once, so that he knows he's not a secret anymore. I want him to have that. I want him to have a picture of it, even if we never do it again. Yes. You'll do that? Yes. Okay. She drove herself back to the hospital. She took the Civic. Luca followed her in the SUV, a quarter-mile back, and the roads went from country to highway to the sodium lights of Route 9, and she passed the Blue Star Diner at 9:15 that evening on the way. And she saw through the front window that the light over booth 4 was still dying, and she did not slow down, and she did not stop. And she did not miss it as much as she thought she would. Her mother was awake. Her mother had been waiting. He came home. He came home, Mom. Bruno. Bruno's fine. Marco's fine. Everyone's fine, Mom. Oh, baby. Mom. What? He told me I could leave. Her mother looked at her for a long moment. He said what? He said, Mom. He said he wasn't going to ask me to be part of it. He said Marco gets the businesses and Dante gets a small life and he's going to finish the rest himself. He said he wanted me to have... She started to cry again a little, just the leftover of the afternoon's crying. He said he wanted me to have a door that opened from the inside. Catherine closed her eyes. Her mouth moved very slightly, a tiny twist at the corner that was maybe a smile and maybe something harder to name. Did he say that? He said it. Huh. What? He said that to me once, Lila, 30 years ago, in a garden in Italy. He said it about the house we were living in. He said it about what we were building. He said, Finché non ti trovi, until I find you. And he told me the ring meant that no door in the world would ever close between us. I didn't believe him then. I took the ring off the first night I ran. I kept it because I didn't know how to throw it away. I thought if I ever saw him again, I would give it back to him, and he would understand that he was wrong about the door. You still have it. It's on my hand, baby. He gave me a choice, Mom. For the first time in my life, somebody in that world gave me a choice. Then take it. I don't know what I want. Then take the time to find out. That is also a choice, Lila. You don't have to know today. She sat on the edge of her mother's bed. Her mother took her hand. It was warmer still, warmer than it had been yesterday, and Lila thought maybe that was the protocol working, or maybe that was her wanting it to be the protocol working, or maybe it was both, and she decided sitting there that both was all right. She stayed the night. She stayed most of the next 3 weeks. She slept in the apartment over the laundromat, and then, When her mother was discharged, she moved her mother into a one-story rental 12 minutes from the hospital, a small house with a sunroom and a garden that had been left alone for a decade and was waiting to be let back in. Adriano paid for the house. She let him. Her mother's protocol responded. By the 3rd week, the tumor markers were going down. By the 6th week, doctor. Hassan used the word remarkable, and then, carefully, later, the word remission. And Lila watched her mother come back into her own skin a little at a time, not the way she had been at 23 in the photograph in the garden, but the way she was going to be now, at 49, with a scar across her belly and a half-inch of new hair coming in and a quiet in her eyes that had not been there before. Because the thing she had been running from for 25 years was, finally, not chasing her anymore. In February, Lila drove to Pennsylvania. Her mother had called Elaine the week before. The conversation had been long and had involved crying on both ends of the phone, and a plan had been made. And when Lila pulled into the driveway of a small brick house in a small college town, Elaine was waiting on the porch, a narrow, gray-haired woman in a cardigan with kind eyes and a nervous mouth. And behind her, coming out of the front door with his hands in the pockets of a hoodie, was a tall, red-brown-haired, broad-shouldered 20-year-old who looked at Lila with her own mother's gray-blue eyes and said, "Hi. I guess. Hi. You're. Yes. Okay." They stood there on the porch for a second, not knowing how to hug, not knowing whether to try. And then Noah, the boy whose existence had put her on the floor of a driveway 4 months before, said, "Do you want a coffee? I don't know what you do when your sister shows up. I'm assuming coffee." "Coffee would be great." "Okay." It was in the end the easiest thing that had happened to her in a year. He was funny. He was shy. He was 20 and still most of the way a boy, and he asked her the questions he had been holding for 3 weeks since Elaine had sat him down and told him the truth, and she answered them as carefully as she could, and she did not tell him, that first day, about their father. That came later. That took another 3 visits and a phone call, and finally a dinner in the spring where Catherine was there. And Noah looked at his birth mother across a restaurant table and said quietly, "I'm not angry at you, I just need to know what you were afraid of." And Catherine told him, in her own words, everything Lila had heard in the hospital, and he listened, and at the end of it he reached across the table and he took his mother's hand. And that, as far as Lila was concerned, was the moment the thing her mother had been carrying finally got put down. She saw Adriano on holidays. She saw Marco more often. Marco came through the city for business, and Marco took her to lunches where she asked him questions about the legitimate side of the company, and he answered them, and slowly, over a year, she came to understand that Marco was not his father and would not be his father, and that Marco was doing a thing his father had not done, which was trying to be a son who did not inherit everything. Dante she saw on a video call twice a month, and he made her laugh. And at her mother's 50th birthday, he cooked spaghetti alle vongole in Lila's kitchen, while his brother and his father, and a woman who had once stolen $4.5 million from their family, sat around her small dining room table. And the moment was not easy, it was not seamless. There were long silences and one bad argument between Adriano and Catherine about something from 1998 that neither of them would explain to the table. But it happened, and it was real. And Lila took a photograph of it on her phone afterward, the 4 of them standing in the kitchen. Noah on one side, Dante on the other, Catherine in the middle with her arm around Lila's waist, Adriano slightly apart, Marco in the doorway. And she kept that photograph on her refrigerator for the rest of her life. She did go to school eventually, not right away. She worked for a year in a small nonprofit that ran domestic violence shelters in 3 counties, because it was the kind of work she could do without thinking too hard about why she was doing it. And then she went to community college, and then to a 4-year, and by 29 she had a social work degree and a job she actually liked, and a husband who was a carpenter, which made her mother cry when she met him because her mother understood, and Lila understood, the small circular poem of it. His name was Ben. He was a good man. He knew her father was a wealthy Italian businessman who lived most of the year in Europe. He did not know the rest. She did not tell him the rest, and Adriano never pushed her to. And Marco, when he visited, behaved like a legitimate man with a brother-in-law he was fond of, and the membrane held. Adriano died when she was 34. A heart attack, quick, in the garden of the house in the country, in the late afternoon, with Renata in the kitchen and Luca in the drive. He was 71. She got the call from Marco at 2 in the morning her time, and she flew to Italy for the funeral, and she stood beside her brothers in a cold church in a town whose name she still had trouble pronouncing, and she did not cry at the service, and she cried very hard in the car afterward, alone, for about 40 minutes, and then she did not cry about him again for a long time. He left her a letter. Renata had it. It was sealed, and it was dated 3 years before his death, and it was 2 pages long, and it said, among other things, I kept the promise. I did not ask you to be part of it. I did not try to make you into me. I failed you in 1,000 other ways, and I know it, but I did not fail you in that one. That is the only thing I have done in my life that I am proud of. You are the only thing I have done that I am proud of. Thank you for letting me be, however briefly, your father. A. She kept the letter. She kept the green-stoned ring, too, the one he had worn, which Marco brought her in an envelope 6 months after the funeral and said, without elaboration, he wanted you to have it. She did not wear it. She put it in a small box next to her mother's, which Catherine gave her on her 40th birthday with her eyes wet and her hands steady. And she kept both of them in a drawer in her bedroom in a house in a small town where her husband did not know what was in the box and did not ask. Her mother lived to be 74. She saw both of her grandchildren born, Lila's 2, one in her 30s and one right on the edge of 40. And she held them, and she told them stories that were not true, the way good grandmothers do, and she died in the rental house that Adriano had bought her, with her daughter beside her and her son on the phone, quietly, in her sleep, of a heart that had decided it had done enough. Lila buried her with the green-stoned ring on her finger, because that was what her mother had asked for, and because she thought it was right that one of the two of them should go into the ground, finally, after all of it. Years later, when Lila was in her 60s, her own daughter asked her, one Christmas, about the grandfather she had only met twice. Was he a good man, Mom? Lila thought about it for a long time. She was old enough by then that thinking took longer than it used to, and she did it in front of her daughter without apologizing for the silence. He was not a good man, she said. He did a lot of things that were not good. He hurt a lot of people, some of whom I knew about, and most of whom I did not. He was not a good man. Okay. But he was, at the end, a better man than he had been, and he was for exactly 4 days in October of 2025, the kind of man who could look at a daughter he had just met and decide that the best thing he could do for her was to let her go. That was not a thing he was supposed to be able to do. I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it was me, or if it was my mother, or if it was just that he was tired, or if it was all of it. But he did it. He gave me a door. He did not have to. And the rest of my life, this house, your father, you, your brother, this kitchen, is the other side of the door he gave me. That is what he was. That is what I want you to know. Mom. Yeah. That's a pretty good thing to be, I think. It is a thing, sweetheart. It is not everything, but it is a thing. That was the part, she thought later, that she wanted people to understand about her life. Not the diner, not the ring, not the black SUV on Route 9 at 3 in the morning, not the house in the country, not the Thursday in October when a man she never met named Teodoro had died in a place she would never know. Those were the things that happened to her. They were not the point. The point was smaller. The point was that a 24-year-old girl with $43 in her apron had gone into a terrible week and come out the other side of it, a person instead of a possession, and that she had done it because 2 different people, one her mother and one her father, had loved her enough, in their very different and very imperfect ways, to give her the one thing neither of them had ever been given themselves, the right to decide. Her mother had given it to her by running, by lying for 24 years, by building a small bad apartment over a laundromat in a town nobody important had ever heard of, where Lila had been allowed, unknowingly, to become whoever she was going to be. Her father had given it to her by, for once in his life, not taking what was his to take. She had not been saved by the power of either of them. She had been saved by the choices of both of them, and by her own choices, which she had been given the chance to make because of theirs. That was what she wanted her daughter to know. She did not become Lila Vescari. She was, until the end of her life, Lila Carter. On her driver's license, on her mail, on the little brass sign next to her office door at the shelter, she eventually ran. And when she died, an old woman in a bed in a small house, With her own daughter holding her hand the way she had once held her mother's, the obituary in the local paper said, Lila Carter, 81, longtime director of the Harbor County Women's Center, is survived by her husband, her 2 children, her brother Noah Carter of Harrisburg, her half-brothers Marco and Dante Vescari of Italy, and by a great many people who, over 50 years, she helped find a way out of rooms they had been told they could not leave. She had not ruled an empire. She had in the end done something better. She had opened the door.